Hey folks, you're in the zone with Reinhold Bulow. Tonight we're going to be talking about extreme music and metal music to be more specific, but I'm going to dive into my background with that and how I refined my music taste over the years, how I discovered certain artists, and the impact that those artists have had on me. I will say that it was a little daunting trying to figure out like where to start with things because there's so many things to talk about and I have so many interests in things lately. But just like anything, I kind of chose to stick with things that I know and that I'm comfortable talking about. So I'm going to dive more into music, guitar, writing, music production, and kind of creativity in general. In the future, I'm going to make more of an effort to dabble more into things that kind of catch my interest. So, history, world history, conspiracy theories, that's definitely something I want to talk about because that's something that really fascinates me. And my newfound love of hockey. I don't really know too much about hockey. I started following the San Jose Sharks probably last year before the Stanley Cup playoffs started. And, watching players like Joe Pavelski or Joe Thornton, it kind of started making me appreciate that. I'm going to even call that an art form to me because that's an art form. It takes discipline and practice. So I feel like that kind of qualifies. Um, Other than that, I have a special guest tonight. A very dear friend that I've known for years, childhood cohort and partner in crime, Jose Trevino, who is going to basically spear this conversation with me, talking about extreme music and all the subgenres that kind of lie there within, and help me stay on topic, pretty much. We definitely started each other off, and we pushed each other and we encouraged each other to look and find different kinds of artists. I feel like it was kind of a competition growing up. It was me and him and a few other kids. I was probably 13 when I moved to from California to Missouri, and around that time, I was really getting into more extreme music. I had already been started off, kind of got in a general direction. I just discovered Slayer and Pantera. I had been really big into Killswitch Engage. I think they just put out As Daylight Dies. And this is so weird talking in like album formats because I feel like we've transitioned away from people talking album formats. So instead of referencing an album, I should just say around, see, I was 13, so 2006, 2007. Um, yeah, and I think at the time the heaviest stuff that I had heard and actually listened to was like Slayer and Chimera. Let's see. I don't think I had really even discovered Scandinavian black metal because my older sister had kind of showed me that. I think she actually tried to show me like Behemoth, and that just went way over my head. I was not prepared, or I wasn't. I feel like you kind of have to be exposed to things. It's like it has to be in moderation. Like your ear has to develop, and speaking for me personally, I feel like I had to develop my ear a little more before I could listen to more dense things like Nile or Gorguts or Behemoth or anything that just seemed more technical or had more of a wall of sound approach, which is definitely something I take into consideration whenever I hear someone criticizing this genre of music or whenever I may meet someone who may have an interest in this style of music. I feel like they need to have the proper context and they need to kind of prepare themselves for an undertaking a little bit. Um, because it may be a little daunting to listen to. It's this genre of music lends itself to have very dense compositions, very dense productions, and you need to kind of prepare yourself for those uh, aspects of this music. We're definitely going to dive more into this with Jose. So yeah, let's bring him on. All right, buddy. I appreciate you coming on here. Appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know we talked about doing this like for the first time yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, man. Appreciate it. Um, so like I had said in the introduction, we met back when I was 13. You were 13, around 12 or 13. I don't fucking remember.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think we were. I think I was 13. I think you were 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2006, 2007.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Um, so around that time, I think we kind of like share the commonality of like having a passion for music and like creativity in general. So,
Yeah,
um,
definitely, definitely.
all right. So, what's your earliest like music listening experience? Like, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be like heavy, but like, what's the earliest memory that you have of like hearing music and you're like, wow, actually, I'm a fan of music.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny too because it I often think that it never really kind of starts with heavy music for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You just eventually find yourself in that place. But I know, like growing up, like with my mom would listen to a lot of like bluegrass and a lot of honestly like 90s girl pop bands. So that was playing like in the house all the time.
Jamie listens to bluegrass.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, like your Earl Scruggs and your Alison Krauss and whole list of them. But so whenever I was at the house with her, as a small kid, those are the sort of things that I'm hearing from her. And I mean, if you don't know any different, then I mean, I'm not saying it's inherently bad or anything. I enjoy some bluegrass myself, but yeah. But then like you maybe go and pick up things from various other places like cousins that were listening to like like Limp Bizkit was like the coolest thing way back then.
Or I remember when I was like really young, I think it was MTV or VH1. I remember like Kid Rock was like blown up like
Yeah,
probably in like
yeah,
98, 99.
yeah.
And
Like
that like I heard
your
that and I was
Linkin
like,
Park,
yeah.
yeah, Linkin Park and like Disturbed, that kind of a new metal craze
Mhm.
that we were just like young men and right in the thick of it blowing up.
I was young too, man. I was like 4 or 5. And I remember like I even
Yeah,
thought like I was like, why is Kid Rock yelling? Like why is he so mad? Jesus.
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
like I thought that was like aggressive singing. Even then I was like, dude, I can't get into this. But then I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, it
that
fits
was
the
like
music.
the freak out in that Disturbed song on their first album. The what it is, it the Sickness?
Mhm. You're talking about the intro of him doing the weird the
No,
Waka
like
Kaka thing or
no, like the not like the version on the album wasn't the same version like on the radio, or at least
mm.
for a long time, anyways. Where he like in the middle of the song he would like freak out and
Oh
was like
yeah, that
screaming
weird
about his
outro.
mom,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was like I remember hearing that, and I was just like, "That's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life."
Dude, even if I like I'll go back and listen to that sometimes and I'm still like I'll still cringe. I hear that. I'm like, why the fuck did they put this on this song? Like why
Yeah.
can't they just do a badass breakdown, just do that riff and then he can do like vocalize over it or whatever, scream. But like I'm like it's just cringy. Like I don't know, I'll still listen to that. And I've
Oh
felt
yeah.
the same every time I've heard that. I'm like, they should have just
There
fucking cut that vocal take.
there's very few bands really from that sort of era that I ever really catch myself like I'm gonna listen to this today.
Really?
Yeah. I mean
You
like
never got into Disturb that much?
yeah. I mean I mean, at the time, like, I really enjoyed their first album. Just like I really enjoyed Linkin Park's first album. I really enjoyed, like, say, Godsmack's first album. Then it was like, they maybe only put out, like, maybe one other record, all of them, that was, like, pretty decent to me. And then, like, after that, it just kind of, like, went downhill.
Yeah, I actually feel like that was like a strange time, like early 2000s. Like cuz Disturbed, Godsmack, now that you said that. And I think I remember seeing a video for like I think it was at my sister's apartment. I saw like a live video for like Slipknot, and I was
Yeah,
like, "What the hell is this? Like
yeah.
this shit is scary, man."
I don't know. It's pretty cool. I mean, there are still a couple of bands that kind of maybe got roped into the whole new metal thing that
Hmm.
I still listen to, like today.
Would
Um,
you say that Primus is kind of in that category? I could never
um,
really get into Primus, but I feel like they
well,
were kind of victim to
I
that
think I
because of
have
the
like
time.
the first probably 6 Primus albums. Um, I don't know if I would necessarily consider them new metal, but like what's his name? Is it Larry Lalonde?
Yeah, he was in Possessed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he was in he was on. Well, I mean, I guess he was on Seven Churches and whatever their second album is called. Um, hmm, what is that called?
Wait, which one? I could look it up real quick. Possessed. Let's see.
Beyond the Gates. Beyond the Gates. That's
You know
what it's
what's
called.
weird too? Joe Satriani, he was like his guitar instructor, and I think he even did production. I gotta look into it though. Let me see. All right, yeah, you said Seven Churches, Beyond the Gates, 1986,
Yeah.
Relativity, Combat Records. Let me see, Beyond the Gates, death metal, thrash metal. Who's the?
So it's like I've always found it to be like very interesting, like say in the Primus realm that because predominantly the instrument heard the most. Well, I mean, I think it gets shared between like the drums and the bass the most. So the guitar basically takes a back seat.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Primus, and then so I think it's kind of interesting because obviously Larry Lalonde and Possessed being very guitar driven. I consider Possessed a very extreme thrash metal band. I don't. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess the death metal sort of influences are there.
Mm.
It just sounds like very raw, like very raw, fast,
Because they were like,
evil thrash. But so it's just interesting to me for him to go from something that's very guitar driven like that to where the guitar actually takes a back seat to other instruments.
I feel like they were integral to the death metal scene though, right? Because I feel like they came out around the same time. Did they come
Yeah,
out
I mean,
before Death?
there's always this big debate about whether or not it was Possessed bearing the crown of the first death metal band or Death, because the Seven Churches album came out in '85,
Mm-hmm.
and Scream Bloody Gore came out in '87. But it's like, which one is the actual blueprint for which one actually sounds more like what death metal is?
Mm-hmm.
And my money's always been on Scream Bloody Gore.
Would
But I've
you
always felt like Possessed is a very extreme glorified thrash band.
would
Death
you
is
would
very
you
much death
would you
metal.
say that so what are like the hallmarks of something like where do you transition from thrash metal to death metal? Is it thematic elements? Is it vocal approach? Or is
Well,
it
maybe I can answer it by giving you an example. Um, you ever heard? I mean, you ever heard the band Demolition Hammer?
no.
Okay, well, Demolition Hammer's first 2 albums, Epidemic of Violence. Well, no, that's their second album. Forget what their first album was called, but anyway, so let's just go with their second album, Epidemic of Violence. And I think it came out like '92, maybe.
Yeah, Century Media, yeah.
Um, yeah, '92, and that for me, this album is quite incredible for me for several different reasons, and that's because I do think that this is a thrash album, like because they're a death thrash band, but I feel like they're more thrash than they are death metal. But I think it's about as far as thrash can go without being death metal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that album. Like it's very much is like a death thrash album, but it's like that is the farthest limit thrash could go without being death metal, and it's that album. And I find it very interesting that such an amazing, great like thrash album came out basically in the declining years. Because like by '92, thrash was like on the verge or right there of just like dispersing into obscurity because all of these bands decided to jump onto other, other aspects of music.
Yeah, because I feel like it pretty much reached its peak in the late '80s, and it started transitioning, kind of. I guess where you saw more collaborations with different kinds of artists, or artists kind of pretty much just put away or hid their thrash metal roots, or altogether stopped playing.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. So and I feel like that's kind of like the gateway drug. Is like we kind of all find, you start with something that's an introductory to kind of heavy music or metal music, and then be that a post metal band like Tool, or something more accessible like the Black Album by Metallica, and then it kind of leads you down the rabbit hole to where you find a band that kind of crosses the lines between thrash metal and death metal. So that brings
Yep.
me to another question. What was your first extreme metal exposure? Like, what was the moment that you remember hearing a band and you said, like, this is different, this is kind of a step beyond what I'm used to?
Well, there's a couple instances because like early on, whenever I had a fairly healthy palate of say, of somewhat heavy music, but was kind of like you were saying, kind of going down that rabbit hole where you're like, I just want more. What else is out there? I bought probably 5 albums all at one time, being very, very little, or I was exposed very little at this point, though, to like, say, your extreme forms of music, like death metal and grindcore and stuff like that. But I had bought um, Carcass's Descanting, Tomb of the Mutilated, The Bleeding, and Frozen Back in Time by
Oh yeah,
Obituary.
Obituary.
And I think Altars of Madness, all at the same time. Like
Oh,
I had like those albums um, whenever I initially wanted to check these things out. And Cannibal Corpse just right away just like blew my mind because Chris Barnes being such a, I don't know, just an absolute monster on both of those records, and his vocal approach is different, very different for both of those albums. But I just remember thinking like this is the most inhuman this is the most inhuman thing I've ever heard in my life, and I just want more.
would you say that like you kind of like had to brace yourself for the I'm not gonna say inaccessibility, but like I feel like it's a little jarring to like listen to extreme music. If I handed someone a copy of Tomb of the Mutilated, or a copy of even something like Leprosy, and I told them to go home and listen to that, I feel like a lot of people who don't have like a music listening background with hard rock or even metal music, I feel like it would be kind of undertaking for them. So, be that because of the type of music or the vocal styles found in those those bands, um, would you say that you kind of like had an experience when you first like listened to those artists when you bought those like albums?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can tell you right off the bat, um, one that didn't really click with me right away was the Carcass album. And it kind of blows my mind because it's like I absolutely love Carcass. I think Carcass is amazing. And but um like they're on that album he has what's his name? Um I can't remember. He's no longer with them, the drummer, because
Yeah, he had an accent, didn't he?
yeah, he's
Or ALS, something I can't remember.
yeah, he's disabled in some manner. But like his drum patterns, which I think are just absolutely genius, but like at the time, like they're um they're not just like normal rhythms, it's
Ken
which
Owen.
yeah, yeah, there we go, Ken Owen. And he um I mean now like I think like I can't believe I didn't like dig this record right away because I mean as time would go on, I mean I was just extremely hungry to find the rest of Cartes's material.
Hmm.
But yeah, I know it's really interesting for like a first experience. Um, like, and I was talking to my brother, and when you're like younger and you first figure out what Slayer's all about, it's like freaking Christmas morning.
You know, I didn't really get the greatest introduction to Slayer or Pantera. I remember like my first introduction to those were actually Slayer and Sepultura. Those were my introduction to what would lead me towards extreme metal. And I got a copy, or someone gave me a copy of Show No Mercy and
Yeah,
Arise by
which
Sepultura.
which Show No Mercy being basically just like a glorified Iron Maiden album
Yeah,
for
I mean,
me. I
there's
mean,
some.
don't get me wrong, I love Iron Maiden, so I mean I can really get down with it, but it's like it did take Slayer just a little while to like come up with like what everybody thinks of Slayer to be.
Definitely, because I feel like no artist is going to. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that they put out a debut album and it's like, you know, if they have any longevity and if you look at their catalog, I don't feel like they lay the perfect blueprint of what they are going to or what their potential is going to be on their first album. They have like little telltale signs or tendencies that they may show. They're like, oh, I feel like I hope they elaborate on these points.
Yeah,
But if I was to hand you a copy of Kill 'Em All and then I handed you a copy of And Justice for All and I told you they were by the same band, and you had no clue who
yeah, you'd
Metallica
be like,
were. I feel like you'd have a hard time believing that. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, which oddly enough, I guess I'd say just purely the classic Metallica um, discography. I'd say I'd think Kill 'Em All is probably my favorite of their first four records.
Really?
Yeah, I really dig Kill 'Em All, especially here in the last couple of years, more so than I have in a long time. Just because it's got like it's almost got a good healthy dose of like punk in it, like just that raw, just like where his vocal delivery, because just sounds like he just sounds like a pissed off kid.
Yeah. It
So
sounds like anyone could in a garage could do that, and I feel like that's what appealed to people is very DIY, like you're saying, like very punk or like hardcore, like. But
yeah,
it was different.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of sit there too, where I'm like, well, and anytime I listen to something that by like today's standards would be considered old, um, is I often try to think like what else came out around this same time, or maybe like within the same year, and it's like Dio's Holy Diver came out in '83, you know, Merciful Fate's Melissa.
And
Their
that's
first record came out in '83. So then I like, as I'm listening to this album, I'm like, and this is what other, this is what was happening in other places, in and around the same time, to just kind of give a bit of a context. But it's like, I mean, they just ruled. I mean, they were, I mean, they kind of just picked up on that British new wave of heavy metal sound. I've always thought, and just put a little more distortion on it, and where instead of like go up there wailing like a history teacher banshee about a certain subject, they're up there just like pissed off and shoving metal up everybody's asses.
and I feel like you made a good point like a second ago was, and I feel like especially now a lot of people take this for granted. People don't really take the time to put things in context when it comes to anything, music, movies, art, books. They don't take the time to look at something, take the time to think what year this was introduced or that this debuted, and in relation to other things at that time, what else was around. If Kill 'Em All came out, and like you were saying, around the same time, relatively, you had King Diamond doing stuff, Iron Maiden doing stuff, and there was really no one else that sounded quite like Metallica, who were kind of they they were like prototypical. They wanted to be fast like Motorhead, but they also wanted to introduce some like punk tendencies. But at the same time, they were introducing like different characteristics. There was like a little more musicianship in their playing abilities. You know what I mean? Even though it was still kind of rough, there were still like telltale signs
Oh
of what their
yeah,
potential was going to be.
yeah, definitely.
And then listening to like Ride the Lightning, and it starts out like right with this like classical interlude, and it jumps right through the craziness of like Fight Fire with Fire. It's like, this is the same band? Like, what?
Yeah, it's really cool, in being able to go back and look at things like in retrospect,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, in some ways, now obviously, I think I'd probably have preferred to been able to experience, the heyday, like right alongside with everybody else.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it is still fun to be able to look back on an entire history of things, and see how it goes, because it's like, even the same way with Slayer, where I always think back to like that song Cryonics
Yeah.
on Show No Mercy, and it's just like, I mean, that song absolutely just rocks from start to finish. And and it was like, and not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but wearing pretty heavy Iron Maiden on their sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then it jumps to, uh, well, actually, I'm not 100% sure if it was Live Undead, the live album that they did first, or if it was Hell Awaits. It was probably Hell Awaits and then the Live Undead album, I would think. But it's like, by their second album, and you listen to Hell Awaits, it's like, wow, they've already shifted um, quite a bit into, that classic sort of Slayer sound. And the thing, oddly enough, too, I guess, about Hell Awaits is, I guess it made quite a bit of waves in the black metal community at the time.
And
Like
it's
the people that would go on to, really make an impact in the Norwegian black metal scene, cite a lot of them cite Hell Awaits as being like just about like a holy grail.
mm-hmm.
And
Would
it's like,
would you think that's because of like the production quality and the approach to an album like that, where it's just very
yeah, well,
aggressive?
yeah, that, and plus, I mean, if you look on the back of the Hell Awaits album, and they have like pictures of of the band, and they have like black, like smeared all like behind their eyes, and I think like Kerry King's wearing like big giant spike, like from wrist to elbow, like spike bracelet. So it's like, if you look on the back of that stuff too, I'm sure probably, as a young budding black metal musician in Norway, and you're looking at that, I guess, and at the same time you have these ideas about what you're wanting to do musically in the next few years to come. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe something like that might kind of have a lasting impression.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like just as of a different sound from Show No Mercy to Hell Awaits, there is still just as big a jump from, or at least I think, from Hell Awaits to Rain and Blood. So because like where Show No Mercy was like amped up, distorted, and Iron Maiden, and like Hell Awaits was this very dark, like dungeon crawling, like early thrash, just piece of music, and then you jump to Rain and Blood, and it's this high intensity, fast, blistering speed of Nazis and sex with the dead, and you know, they just really amped everything up. Not just once but twice.
I feel like if they would have kept one aspect from Show No Mercy and they, kept that all the way through Raining Blood, and I feel like something that probably would have categorized them into like the early, pioneers of maybe death metal, maybe something that would have classified them as death metal was like there was a little bit of melodicism in like Show No Mercy, like in the Antichrist and Cryonics, there are these parts where they're like singable, they're like melodies, and there's not really anything else. Like maybe a few.
It's almost like an anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like they deliberately kind of steered away from these things where they just said, let's kind of go with more of a like not necessarily bare bones, but like a more primitive approach to things, just more aggressive.
I was gonna say like a more like a visceral.
Yeah.
Where they drop like say melody in favor of just intensity.
And this is the next part where I feel like you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this stuff, is because I feel like you wanted to transition the conversation to this. This is a good transitioning point too, where there was kind of a fork in the road where around the same time in the late 80s and early 90s you had black metal going on, and then you had death metal and technical death metal in like two very distinct regions of the world. Europe, I feel like, kind of had more of a presence with black metal. There were bands that were doing death metal, but I feel like the United States, that was a bigger export here. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I would definitely say the original melting pot for death metal would definitely be the U.S. and then more specifically probably Florida.
Yeah. So you can't. There's no really comparison. I don't really understand when people, if they ever choose to draw comparisons or say one's better than the other, because they're different between black metal and death metal. But if you had to pick a preference between black metal and death metal, which would you pick?
Well, that's really hard because I kind of just look at them both as like bastard brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. But I would say I probably listen to more death metal. But it's actually, for me, it's easier to find death metal than it is black metal. Like whenever I'm actually looking to like collect or buy something from these artists, because for one, a lot of the stuff is like imports from like somewhere not in America, so you're gonna pay a lot more. But I thoroughly, really, I mean, I think I enjoy both of them probably equally as much. And I mean, and it's obviously just for purely just different reasons, but their vocal styles are just like completely, or in a lot of cases, completely different. Where black metal's like this acidic, like Ring Wraith, Lord of the Rings, um, freaking Ghost, and then a lot of the death metal where they literally sound like they're
More
swallowing
guttural.
rocks and sound lower than a garbage disposal.
What?
And so it's really actually hard for me to pick one because I think both of them have had such amazing accomplishments that I just admire both of them.
This is one thing I noticed too when I was watching this documentary like 2 weeks ago. Is David Vincent from Morbid Angel was talking about his vision for releasing Blessed Are the Sick at the time, and he was saying like basically how he wanted
He was gonna
this.
piss everybody off.
Well, yeah, not necessarily what the content of the album was, but what how important packaging was to them, and how they wanted to use this painting. I can't remember what it was. It's the with Lucifer crossing the river of souls. That's on the cover of Blessed Are the Sick, and there's a lot of like reds and oranges. It's very colorful. It's a very fleshy
Yeah.
looking album, and it's very colorful, right?
Hmm.
And then it also started making me think about how black metal was the complete opposite, and there was a kind of this rivalry between those two scenes where they wanted, you know, more stripped down production, very like stark album covers. It even seemed like the themes were more stark too. Like just, I'm not necessarily saying it's very templated, and I feel like death metal had a template as well. But both genres had satanic themes, but I feel like death metal talked about more content than black metal necessarily talked about. I feel like there was kind of a handicap with like black metal. I feel like
Hmm.
there were only certain things that were talked about. It was just this, like there was more
Yeah, there was
anti-Christian
like
sentiment.
five different lyrical concepts that like a black metal band would sing about, and that's like nature,
Hmm.
winter, uh, Satan, or paganism.
Yeah, but that
So,
wasn't the case with death metal.
right. I mean, and I mean, Chuck Schuldiner, I
That's
think,
exactly, yeah. That's a good, yeah.
broke ground on that from shying away from the gore obsessed vision of the first two releases, and then by the time Spiritual Healing was coming around,
Became more
he decided,
introspective or like
yeah,
societal commentary.
yeah,
Yeah.
social fears
Hmm.
or anxieties as being the monsters of the story instead of you know um, ghosts and demons and zombies and stuff like that. So it takes like a very an inward approach to like defining like what people are afraid of, or what this, or fear of the mind and what human beings are capable of. So I think with that sort of goings on, and obviously being at the forefront of death metal itself with that band, I mean, I think it just kind of broke open a floodgate that's like you can do so much with this genre of music, and then that's why you have all of your subgenres, and the same with black metal as well. But I think it's much more non-restrictive in death metal
Hmm.
because I mean it just goes. It can go so far in one direction, and then it can go just as far in the opposite direction, and still maintain a death metal sound.
So if you were going to give someone a death metal starter kit, right? This is kind of you're giving this to someone who is curious about the scene. You're trying to pique someone's interest. What are some releases that come to mind that you would recommend?
Well, I honestly kind of think of like how we in America we have the big four of thrash. Well, I kind of have like a big four or five of death metal like in my head that I would think would be basically where I would want somebody to start. And honestly, like something from Death, probably classic. Well, here maybe I'll say the 4 or 5 bands. Like you have like Obituary, you have Death, you have Morbid Angel. Um, let's see here, who else?
So wait, did you say Cannibal?
Oh yeah, Cannibal Corpse would be on there. Yeah, Cannibal
Suffocation?
Corpse. Yeah, and maybe probably like Suffocation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like about those, because it's like if you don't find one of these to your liking, then you're probably just not going to enjoy death metal.
Would you think it would be too much to get someone into maybe something like Nile or it's another band, Gorguts, or even Atheist? Because I know we were talking about Atheist the other day.
Yeah,
Like,
we were. Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I kind of feel like there are some of those albums that upon first listen, and I don't know if it's just because there's so much going on, or it has enough complexity that it doesn't quite resonate with you the first time you listen to it. Sometimes, I mean, because there are those masterpieces, at least I believe so, that are out there that warrant more than just like one listen before it like really starts clicking with you, because like your first play through the album you don't necessarily catch all the nuances, or it just doesn't all digest um all in one sitting. Sometimes you have to kind of sit on it, and I do think that um there are albums out there just like that that can push people away, and then 5 years later they might just like had never listened to it since, but then pop it on, and then it's like you actually find a deep appreciation for some of these things that just once just didn't really click.
all right. Now as far as on the opposite side of the world, around the same time, black metal. What are some artists or releases that you would recommend for someone that's exploring that genre of music?
Exploring black metal. Well, my favorite black metal band, and has been for quite a long time, is Dark Throne. And which started off as a death metal band, their first album.
I feel
Full
like
Side
most
Journey.
black metal bands started out as death metal bands, because Emperor, I'm pretty sure they started out as a death metal band. They changed.
Yep.
Mayhem, I'm pretty sure they started out as a death metal band and they changed.
Yeah, and Dead was in I think it was a death metal band. Morbid, before he was in Mayhem, he was in a band called Morbid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of funny, and I think we have Euronymous to thank for like kind of pushing a few key members of the area to like, here, check this out. Like we should do this, not this. So, but I would say, um, for black metal, a few key bands I think I would point somebody in the direction to would be like Dark Throne, Burzum, Immortal, Enslaved, for like a decent foundation.
Would you throw Gorgoroth in there?
I probably would, because Gorgoroth, even though being like not the initial like kind of first wave of those bands, they were kind of more on the beginning of the second wave. I've always felt like, anyways. But they do have a pretty solid discography there in their early to like I would say right around their early to mid years. That what's his name? Pest. Yeah, Pest. They had an album called Under the Sign of Hell, and um, I just think it's an absolute masterpiece. Now, obviously, then they have like what's that album? The Philosophy with a Hammer or something like that, and the Antichrist. Those those early Gorgoroth records, I always thought was fairly important as well.
Mm. And I feel like anything after the 80s and 90s into the early 2000s, I feel like it just became this big like conglomeration or this big melding of all these different genres, and it's either they became more extreme or they just went different directions. You know, they stopped going in like a thing like I'm thinking like an XY axis that it went in like a different realm with like a different open a
Yep.
different dimension where it just became like Celtic Frost was more of a primitive formulaic style, like very accessible. Yeah, same thing with
Yeah,
Hellhammer.
and honestly, um, like Celtic Frost has been such a I think such a musical blessing because uh, like thrash really liked Celtic Frost, death metal guys really liked Celtic Frost, the black metal guys really liked Celtic Frost, so they could appeal. They were a band that showed uh, various different attributes that not that these opposing forces in the metal community, but there's like common ground that like if you're playing black metal and you don't necessarily like death metal, but the death metal and the black metal guy both like Celtic Frost.
And I would say, and it's kind of weird for me to consider them as black metal, but I think by technicality they are black metal, you know. But I feel like out of everything that's come out of that side of the world, I would say that they're the most important band because of what their music encompasses or encompassed, and then what it would become. I consider Triptychon, I consider that a continuation of Celtic Frost, you know, from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Monotheist
from
album. It's
yeah.
the same
Well,
thing.
about 2 hours ago, I was listening to Monotheist,
Yeah,
and
that's probably one of actually that is one of my favorite albums.
well, and it's probably for me one of the greatest last albums
Yeah,
of
that
like of a band, like their
that's right
swan
when they
song.
peaked too. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like wow, and and I have both the Triptychon albums as well.
it's kind of strange too. It's not a. I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10 because there's like a weird section of that last album where it's just like kind of like atmospheric, kind of like weird, like
Yeah,
wind, noise, screaming, things like that. But those first four, I gotta look at it again, the track listing. But I want to say the first four songs, they literally fucking punch you in the face. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just
it's
really great production. It's
yeah, and it just like
it's thematically
swallows,
solid.
yeah,
Yeah.
swallows you whole.
But I remember the first time I was I remember it was wintertime and I was over at Josh's house and I think DJ was hanging out with us there. And they were all like taking I think someone brought like Xanax or something. And
Yeah,
and I wasn't doing anything. I was just chilling out. They were all getting fucked up or whatever. And DJ let me use his iPod. And he always had that guy knew how to find good compilation albums, right? He was always finding new shit, right? He was downloading stuff or buying new music.
yep,
And he had a pretty diverse like catalog of bands on this iPod, right? And I discovered the Deftones through him. Discovered High on Fire. Discovered Celtic Frost too. I remember I was going through there and I looked and I had heard of Celtic Frost. I had heard of them through Sam Dunn's documentary, the Metal
Yep.
Headbanger's Journey. And I
Yeah,
tried to
good old
listen to him.
Sam Dunn.
Yeah, that guy basically released the blueprint for all of us, and it's easier to navigate now and actually put things into context, which is fucking great. Even I think that movie's like what, maybe like 15 years old now.
I think it came out like 04.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem that old too. It like aged pretty well. It still
Yeah.
translates too. But I remember I listened to a dying god coming into human flesh, and it was snowing outside, and like that,
Yeah, it's just like
I was
perfect.
like, what the fuck is this shit, man? Like,
Yeah.
this is that was heavy. It's nothing, you know. It's like a doom song. You know what I mean?
Oh
There's
yeah,
nothing
it's
there's
just
nothing
absolute.
groundbreaking about it, but it's just the way that song is written. There's like vocal harmonies, these huge ass beautiful riffs, and it's the simplest fucking song. You know, just if you were to write it down on paper and break everything down, there's nothing complex about it. It's just it's
It
tasteful.
just crushes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that whole album is like that.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But and this was in somewhat recent. I mean, I guess relatively speaking, but what's his name? Martin Ain?
Yeah, Martin and Eric. Yeah.
Yeah, he's passed away.
Yeah, I think he passed away like
few
years
probably
ago.
Like 3 years ago maybe.
But regardless, I think that he had a production company, and I watched a documentary called A Dying God that they released. Thomas Gabriel Fisher and him, they were the only two original members, and they had a session drummer and a session guitarist, and they went out on tour in support of Monotheist. And I guess they had some business disputes or disagreements, and I guess Martin, Eric, and Thomas Gabriel Fisher, they had a fractured relationship. You know, their friendship had been ruined because of business or some feud they had had.
I mean, the Monotheist came out in like 06, and then by 2008, Celtic Frost was no more.
Yeah. So they had hung it up before he passed away. But
yeah, definitely.
I
was just like, you know, you ever have those like hopes where you're like, maybe at one point, like maybe there's gonna be a reunion.
Speaking of,
yeah, I mean, obviously that can't happen.
Speaking of which, like 2 years ago on April Fool's Day, I didn't even know what day it was, but I remember someone shared this. It was like a Revolver link, and it was like, after 25 years, Sepultura original lineup back together, and it showed a picture of all four of them. I was like, what the fuck?
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then you click on it, it was like April Fool's. I was like,
you suck.
This isn't even funny. Like, what the fuck? Like, people actually have shit invested in this. They both play the original fucking catalog. Max Cavalera still plays Sepultura song. I still can't understand why they just don't get their shit together.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Probably
they should literally
like...
take a page out of Pantera's book and be like, yo, the Abbott brothers are dead, and everyone wants their music. And Phil and Rex regret that they never patched shit up with Vinny before he died. Or, you know, like, even if I think people... I don't know who could have replaced Dimebag Darrell on a tour, you know, but like...
Well, everybody says Zakk Wylde.
But Zakk Wylde's a sick-ass guitar player. But listening to him doing I'm Broken, it's like, it doesn't have the same finesse, it doesn't have the same feel, it's like... and that's weird to say that.
I was reading an article the other day that Phil said he would be all for a tour where it would be him, Rex, and Zakk, and then somebody else doing drums, I guess. I don't know. They didn't elaborate much on that, but he said if Zakk Wylde was up for it, he was up for it.
Yeah, I feel like metal. I feel like if people want to see something like that, they could just go see Metal Masters, which is like,
or they could go see Phil and the Illegals because they do Pantera quite often. You know what I mean?
I don't know how I feel about them doing Pantera songs though, because I listened to one of their sets that they had done where it was a vulgar display of Pantera or whatever their tour is called. Which I guess that's the reason why Slayer took them out on their final legs of their tour, because they're just focusing on doing a Pantera set list, I guess. But I don't know how I feel about it. You know,
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm.
it seems more. It sounds like a cover band. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
You know.
but then again, I mean, Phil's voice is not quite what it was in the Pantera heyday, and nobody else is anything to do with Pantera up there. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother me that he's doing it, but I don't really necessarily think it's the most amazing thing either. But I just like the fact that he's still continuing.
Doing music, he's a great facilitator, and I feel
Yeah,
like he's given back to this next generation of musicians and bands. I feel like that guy. I feel like I don't think he's ever gonna stop playing music, but I feel like the music he should focus on, which he kind of is. I don't know if you checked out N minor or not, but
no, I haven't. I've been meaning to. He's actually got a couple of bands that I've never really checked out because he just has so many over the years.
yeah,
But like, he's got one that's like Phil and Bill,
yeah, Bill Moseley,
Moseley.
yeah.
Yeah,
Was that a music release
yeah.
or was that like a collaborative thing where they were doing like spoken word? I never figured out what that was. I never listened to
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it was like kind of like weird, like country type vibe to it. But yeah, there was like spoken word stuff on there. And then he's got one like the body. No, not the body.
Body and Blood.
Body and blood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Bird. I think they only did that one song.
yeah. So, and I'd never really checked that out either.
But
But then like,
that was a kick-ass song. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jarbo. Have you ever heard of Jarbo?
yeah, Jarbo
He did that. He
collaborates
yep,
with yeah,
Jarbo.
collaborated with her.
And that was I feel like that's something too where he's kind of shown people that this genre of music doesn't necessarily lend itself to very single-minded individuals. I feel like people kind of who appreciate the style of music happen to be fans of other kinds of music or
Oh
other
yeah,
forms of creativity. You know,
yeah,
I
and I
feel like
think that's really evident, like in his whole plethora of various bands. Because even just like did you ever check out Southern Isolation?
Southern Isolation. I never really checked them out that much. I know that was like him and his ex-wife's thing that they did.
Yeah,
I feel like that if that guy
Stephanie
got bored though, he started a band.
Opal Enthroned or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah,
during that period in his life though, I feel like he was doing all these different projects, and I feel like he maybe lost track of all this stuff because he's doing Christ Inversion, Southern Isolation, Iban, what other
Super
stuff
Joint Ritual,
Super Joint, Down,
Viking Crown,
Viking Crown.
Necrophagia.
What was that band? What did he do with
Or-
Hank and the dude from
Oh,
Arson
Arson
Anthem.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was listening to that, and too, that's listening to that stuff. I feel like that's given me more of a context of the hardcore influence that he brought into Pantera.
Yeah, the hardcore punk. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I have both full length Arson Anthem releases, and if one of them's and if they've only released one, then the other one's like an EP or something.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them right here. Insecurity, Notoriety, and a self-titled Arson Anthem.
And
But yeah,
I feel like that's one thing too is like especially in this day and age, I feel like with music, I don't feel like we're going to be going I feel like it's going to be a little while before we kind of get out of this like we were talking about like this post Meshuggah thing. You know, like everyone is stuck on this thing. I've been like I feel like we should all kind of like go back and look at things that have come out in the past 20 years and appreciate the context of what they were. And I feel like that's the only way that people can move forward is kind of like, hey, this was, you know, significant. This is why it was significant. I'm not saying, you know, we should utilize these aspects of this band, but I feel like in order to move forward, there has to be some different aspect introduced that's similar to this. Not the same thing, but like, you know, like an elaboration on something or something from a different aspect.
I've always kind of felt like it always comes in cycles,
Yeah.
where it's like you kind of have these periods where, um, you know, musically, like if you were to look at it as a chart, it's like there are just like golden ages of music, and then sometime after that golden age, when the scene or the genre gets flooded, and it kind of has like this downward momentum, and it kind of starts to crash because there's so many out there that are doing basically the same thing, and it starts to kind of lose its originality. But then eventually, after having a fallout, and having a decline in say quality because this flooded market, eventually it does come back up to rise again with I think fresh, original, new ideas that just catapult it even further.
Are there any like newer artists who you feel like may be carrying the torch for the next 10
Well,
years or kind of bringing a newer, fresher aspect to things?
um, and already, I mean, some of these bands have been around. Like one band that I consider to still be a new band. I mean, their first release, their first EP they released was in like 2011, and that's Cloud Rat. I don't know if you ever heard of Cloud Rat.
I'm gonna look them up. Cloud Rat, is it one word?
Uh, one word or two. They're
Cloud Rat. Okay.
they're from Michigan, I think. They're a three-piece like grindcore band.
Is
and they're
there a
fronted.
female in the band?
It's a vocalist is a female.
Yeah, okay. It's for fans of Insect Warfare, Weekend Nachos, Full of Hell. Yeah, I'd probably check them out. Agoraphobic
Yeah,
Nosebleed,
yeah.
and oh, okay, never mind.
And like the album, I think it's Moksha, and their very first EP. If you ever get a chance, just like listen. I mean, they just put out, I think, a new album um, this year, just a couple weeks ago, honestly. But this band is probably like one of my favorite grind acts of the 21st century. Because I feel like grindcore as a genre has reached this like somewhere in like the mid 2000s. Really, I think it just reached this like all time like stagnant state. I'm not saying there's not good stuff that's just like pure grind that didn't come out within these periods, but I just mean like, one of my favorite grind records ever is Napalm Death's second album, From Enslavement to Obliteration.
Mm-hmm.
So, or like Righteous Pig, Stress Related.
And this is kind of like, and I think I kind of understand where you're coming from too. It's
like I feel like Cloud Rat is like carrying, for me anyways, is carrying the grind torch of the 21st century.
And would you say that they're bringing like a new, fresh aspect, or you feel like are they using that template and they're using that as a kind of as a format to continue to introduce people to this music? Because I feel like live music, I don't feel like its relevance is ever going to go away. I feel like people get something from live performances that they don't get from listening to an album or an album listening experience or listening to a streaming service. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, especially within the last 10 years or so, of like going to metal shows and seeing a lot of these bands that I looked up to, or are really passionate about, and when they get up there on stage and they are better live than they are in album format, it's just like one more reason why this is absolutely the music for me. Because it's like if you go to I'm not saying just because you play metal music you're better live, but in a
That's
lot
what I
of
was gonna say. It's
cases,
not
a lot
necessarily
of
the
cases,
case.
Yeah, in a lot of cases though, with some other types of music, when you go and see them live, and you're just like, what? You know what I mean? And it's if you're a metal band and you're worth your salt, you're you're mind blowing live. You know what I mean? Your quality has not dropped going from studio to a live performance, and I just think it's absolutely incredible. I think that um, the passion really shows, and even just the overall feeling at shows. You know, with a bunch of other metalheads, it's almost like going to a family reunion of people, a family you've never met before. You know what I mean?
The one I feel like the one thing that I seek to find when I go to a show and I'm watching, I know it's going to be a good show when I feel like I am not there with a group of people. I feel like I don't even feel like I'm there. I should feel like it's a very internalized experience, but that kind of transports me somewhere else. That's what I hope to find. If I know it's a good show, if I have that experience where I'm like,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is
It's
transcendental. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think that's exactly the word I was going to use.
But the thing
And
is, I haven't had that experience at a lot of shows lately. And if I have had an experience like that, it wasn't with a metal band,
yeah.
you know? Like I think the last show I went to where I was like, fuck, these dudes are like on something like on they're on the trail to something. Like it was Drab Majesty and they opened for Death Heaven. And I
Yeah.
was there and I was like everyone in the that and that's what I feel like people should do. And I feel like the Vans Warp Tour kind of like we're onto this. I never saw the Vans Warp Tour, but I feel like the best thing that you can do with live music is you bring people from different communities together. When I was over at the Broadberry up in Richmond, and Def Heaven was coming out. You wouldn't think these guys would be opening for Def Heaven, you know, but Def
Hmm.
Heaven are fans of them, so they brought them out. It's a two piece, but these guys look like they have these alter egos, and they wear like stark white, all this metallic makeup, and these big ass sunglasses and like wigs. They look fucking weird, right? And they
Yeah.
come out
Just
there
like totally out there.
and literally they start these like synth loops and like playing this really atmospheric, spaced out, arpeggiated guitar, like beautiful landscapes, very textured stuff. And literally their sets like they played through one of their albums, the release that they were touring in support of. And I was like, I was a fan of them before I saw them. I'd known about them, but I went and bought their album anyways, and I bought their merch, and I was like, these dudes literally need to be on the road because people need to have that experience. That's
Yeah.
something that I know that album inside and out now, and no matter what, I still listen to that. I'm like, there's something on this album that wasn't captured. It just that's the thing. That's I feel like that's the blessing, the curse of like when it comes to art is like there is a dynamic that's never fully captured in the medium that it's being expressed through. You
Right.
know, it's because it's not a pure human element that's there. It's just the
Hmm.
medium that it's channeled through. But regardless, they fucking kicked ass in Def Heaven. They kicked ass too. But that's what I feel like is the most important thing is there has to be when I say human, I think what I mean when I say human is there has to be this authenticity. Like it has to be real. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you
Well,
can tell
and
when
then
something's not authentic. You can tell. Like it's a fucking gimmick, you know?
yep. Yeah. Well, and then that's like what is that? I heard there, and now this is probably a couple of years old at this point, but like heard that Travis Ryan,
Oh, cattle?
uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from Cattle Decapitation was I don't know, I think using something to help him out live, like vocally,
Mm-hmm.
like within I don't know the PA system or whatever. to kind of help keep the illusion. I don't know if maybe he was just having a bad week, because I mean I've seen various live performances,
That guy's a fucking nut.
somewhat recently, and
Yeah.
I mean he does a great job. So I don't know what all of this was like, how it all transpired, but it's like like you were saying, I just like authentic, like real. Like I don't necessarily like a here, I'm gonna let this machine do this for me, per se.
But I don't feel like there's
I'm more,
anything wrong.
It's like I'm more interested in like what you can do.
I don't think there's anything wrong with utilizing tools, because I feel like there's this huge
No,
thing.
I mean I don't think so either. I just mean like, I mean, it's
within moderation.
That human element still needs to be very ever present.
Like for those that like don't know, like this is the one example that comes to mind is like you ever heard people talking about like trigger drums? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. There's a difference between what you mean when you say triggered drums. Like if you're at a show and you listen to you're listening to a band, they're utilizing triggered drums on a snare or kicks. They're initiating a signal that's, triggered in a sensor that's mounted on their drums, and it's triggering a sample that was pre-recorded, right? But depending on how you have your threshold settings and your attack release settings or whatever that's being triggered, it's going to initiate a signal. And the only reason some people do that is, it's a more consistent sound. Like if you're doing a live sound check or whatever, you know that you won't be able to get a good snare or kick sound. You can always fall back on these sounds. So it's not like they're doing anything more often than not to improve their abilities as a musician. But on the flip side of that, there are other bands, if you were to look up a band, Carnifex on YouTube, there's a live show that they did where the triggers that they had used at this show, the settings that they used, they kept, a lot of guys will play with soft feet when they're playing. And in hopes of doing that, they'll initiate multiple trigger openings, right? Where one touch, depending on how the velocity settings are on this trigger, if I barely touch it, it triggers 2 or 3. So it sounds fast. So they can play really relaxed, do every other few hits, but it sounds staggered. It sounds like stuttering. You can tell it's triggered.
It carries with this.
So that person,
a different sound.
Yeah, that person was using it as a performance enhancing tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think with the Travis Ryan thing, I feel like he may have, because the way that he layers his vocals, he'll do these things. Have you ever seen him do his tonguing thing?
Yeah, like where his like tongue's like hanging like halfway. It's like corkscrewed and like out of the side of his mouth.
He's pitching his vocals.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if you'd call it pitching, but like he's doing something to alter the projection of the words or noises that are coming out of his mouth. It's brilliant because he'll layer that with gutturals and he'll layer shit so it sounds like a wall of vocals. So it's hard to reproduce that live. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it's understandable too. I'm actually like, because I mean he's kind of a freak of nature, but I'm actually very excited to hear the new album, and I think we're both going to see them on the same tour.
Yeah, because they're doing the Atheist thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else. You know what?
Like,
okay, wait.
A Primitive Man, Full of Hell,
Big
Atheist.
That's my fucking shout out. I'm not sure if Primitive Man was on there, but Vitriol. For anyone that has never heard Vitriol,
yeah.
Go. I'm gonna plug this guy's Instagram if I could find it. Victorious Weapons. That's Scott from Vitriol. He was in another band before, but that is the band right there. I feel like I've kind of taken a break from extreme music, but then I listened to them. I don't even know how I found them. I think they were recommended on Spotify or something.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the Gateways to Annihilation, like, worship.
And it's like
But I mean,
there's nods
and I don't mean
to a bunch of different artists, but there's like something unique there. There's like there's pain in that music. There's
Oh
like
yeah,
resentment. There's just like
there's a
Jesus
level of
Christ. Yeah,
emotion that is felt throughout. I mean, every single second of that band. Are they? I guess they're opening.
I gotta here. Wait, let me look up that tour. But that was the thing that sold me on it. It's very rare that I will, especially if it's during a work day. That's the only thing I can't stand about shows is if it takes place during the course of a regular work week and there's a commute
Yeah.
involved to Richmond that's like 70 miles away. Because I'm like, all right, the show
Yeah.
doors open at 7. You know the band's not gonna get out there. You know, worst case scenario to be like 8 o'clock, and then if there's 4 bands on that bill, you're not gonna be getting out there till like midnight,
Yeah.
depending on what the noise ordinance is in that town or city that you're in. But
Yep.
then you got to do the drive back. But
Yeah, and one of the last shows that I went to. Now I was a fan of this band. I just had never seen them live, and this
Full of
last
Hell
March
is on that tour as well.
Yeah, this last March I went and I seen Morbid Angel and Necrot and Blood Incantation.
Yeah, that's another band
and,
that's catching some
and
steam
Blood
too. Is Blood Incantation
opened up the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, by far, I thought they were probably the best of the 3 bands that played that night. And I don't mean to take anything away from Morbid Angel because, man, it was awesome. Like, it was so great to see those guys. But there was a magnetism about the way those Blood Incantation guys played and their sound. Like, I don't know if I just found, like, a sweet spot. It was just like, it was literally just like this extraterrestrial, just safe haven of just death metal.
Because I feel like they're touching on something that hasn't really been explored. It's this kind of like psychedelic, progressive, like melding with death metal. I've never really checked them out, but I feel like it's kind of like
metal on the outer reaches.
Yeah, like because I think I thought it was a Rings of Saturn thing. Like when I saw their album, because it literally is the Rings of Saturn or whatever, and then it started making sense when I started looking at them and listening to their music. I was like, these nerdy ass motherfuckers are like talking about the far reaches of the frozen, inescapable fucking void of space, and the outer reaches of the edges of the universe or whatever. And that's heavy stuff though. There's a lot of content you could talk about that. I feel like just looking at that album, I feel like that's what they're talking about. I still have yet to actually check out their music. I've checked that out a little bit, but
dude, their EP that dropped before their first full-length album and their full-length album that's what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like whenever I listen to them, it's just like, you know how when you were younger and say you put on I don't know, name for yourself, name a death metal classic for you.
For me,
yeah.
What the hell was that? Despise the Sun by Suffocation.
Suffocation? Yeah. So whenever I first heard and listened all the way through to like Blood Incantation's first album, like Starspawn, something like that, I instantly said to myself, like, because it came out in like 2016, and I just remember saying, like, this is a death metal classic that came out in 2016. Like, 20 years from now, people are going to be like talking about this really badass death metal album that came out in 2016.
Let me see if Blood
just like people do with, like, Altars of Madness or Leprosy or Tomb of the Mutilated or or what have you.
Inner Paths to Outer Space. That's the release by Blood Incantation. All right, let me see. Where's the tour? I don't know if they have any tours coming up. What? For any fans of Blood Incantation out there, kind of having a hard time actually getting to any of their websites. I am at a Bandcamp. Yeah, it doesn't give me any information. Anyways, so that's you would rep Blood Incantation as that's something that you'd recommend to a lot of people to check out.
Yeah, for like new, like of a newer era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would pick like Blood Incantation. I mean, and there's a couple. There's like you ever Tomb Mold,
What is it called?
Tomb, like like TOMB,
Okay, that's the
Tomb
name of a band.
Mold.
Tomb
Yeah,
Mold.
yeah,
I think that sounds familiar.
yeah. Those guys play just like a just have a very classic like death metal heyday kind of sound that just really resonates with me. Um, but then again, like Cannabis Corpse. I mean, obviously, I know it
I
kind of
feel like they've
breaks
been
aside
doing.
or
I feel
whatever.
like they've been doing their thing for a little bit now.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been. I'd say at least every bit of probably 15 years.
Hmm.
But I know something that was always interesting to me was, like the whole, you know, being a fan of Chris Barnes, like in the Cannibal, the classic Cannibal era, and then like going on to 6 Feet Under. And now, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest on 6 Feet Under, but like maybe the first few releases, I thought were pretty strong. And then they go through this kind of weird period where it's some pretty low and it's kind of cheesy or whatever. But like back in like 2015, I got really excited for this 6 Feet Under album, and it was called Crypt of the Devil. And why I was so excited about this is because his backing band on this album was everybody in Cannabis Corpse. So you had the original lead singer of Cannibal Corpse, Chris Barnes, and basically the funny knockoff version of Cannibal Corpse being Cannabis Corpse, but actually has some, musical chops about them, coming together to do a 6 Feet Under album, and honestly, I mean, I was obviously it's not like as great as say classic Cannibal Corpse by any means, but um, it was a hell of a lot of fun. More fun with a 6 Feet Under record than I had in a long time. So
So speaking of 6 Feet Under, I never really followed them too much, but I was kind of introduced to them through you, and then by listening to Chimera and people, you know, hearing about them, kind of mentioned the same context as Chimera because they were, they had influenced Chimera, but it's kind of weird too because it's a small world. Rob Arnold from Chimera, he went and collaborated with 6 Feet Under for I guess three of their releases. It says Undead in 2012, Unborn in 2013, and then Unburied in 2018.
yeah, and those first two, I mean, really, I mean, because like as a general whole, I think just the quality of 6 Feet Under's music just really hasn't quite been up to par.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if it's just like Chris Barnes is kind of just been over bloated with ideas or just like just there's not a huge interest in the music for me anymore. But they're in the after the 2000s, and we emerge into the 2010s, and those like Unborn and Undead, like those are actual like pretty high like highlight like peaks of uh 6 Feet Under's career for me anyways, because it's like you guys spent a long time kind of in this kind of subpar uh gray area for a long time. And not that those albums are just absolutely amazing, but like in the spectrum of 6 Feet Under, it's like I'm glad you guys were able to get back to here because, I mean, I know you're obviously capable of making decent music, or I mean, obviously, I'm sure he enjoys what he does, but it seems like they get a lot of hate from a lot of different people.
Would you say
So,
there's like a little bit of rivalry between 6 Feet Under and Cannibal Corpse, or for
well,
fans of those bands?
yeah, I mean, fans, yeah, I mean, I think those, the whole Corpse Grinder, Chris Barnes thing, I don't think it's ever gonna die, really. Kind of like the whole, Megadeth Metallica thing.
All right, but we got to settle this right now. Who ultimately is the better songwriter, vocalist between Barnes and Corpse Grinder? You got to pick.
Well, okay, if I have to pick, um, I think, I mean, well, okay, so I will have a definitive answer for you, but I guess I'm just gonna talk about this just a little bit though. Obviously, like Corpse Grinder has been in Cannibal Corpse longer than Chris Barnes, like at this point,
So
because
you would
Chris
say that
Barnes was,
he's more Cannibal than Chris was.
yeah, I mean, pound for pound, if that's the way you want to look at it. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like original lineups, you know what I mean?
But
And
would you say that
the first stuff I heard was Chris Barnes stuff. Like I heard classic Cannibal before I ever heard anything with Corpse Grinder. Like I made sure that like I bought the third and fourth album, and then I found out that fourth album was the last one with Chris Barnes. So then I went and I got Butchered at Birth, and then after Butchered at Birth, I got Eaten Back to Life. Like so, I got those first four Cannibal Corpse records and only listened to that until I'd gotten all of the Chris Barnes stuff. But I like Chris Barnes' just very blunt, violent, fucked up nature in the way he writes. Because it's like I'm a big horror movie buff, so whenever like I hear him grunting or reading the lyrics or know the words to the songs, it is very much the musical version of just like a juicy, terrible horror movie. It's just the musical equivalent. And I really get that from those early Cannibal records. But I love Corpse Grinder too. I mean, I think the dude's a goddamn animal. and but honestly, I mean, and it's probably just because it was the stuff that I had first heard from them, but the Chris Barnes era stuff will always probably be my favorite. But there are definite Corpse Grinder albums that I hold in just the same regard as, say, that classic Cannibal era.
You ever check out George Fisher's stuff that he did with Paths of Possession?
Yeah,
Because I know
and
that
he had another, like he had another band, didn't he?
yeah, he just had a recent collaboration with Adam Dukowitz
Adam
from
Duffy. Yeah.
Killswitch Engage and Shannon Lucas
Does it start
of
with an S?
Black Dahlia, Serpentine Dominion.
Yeah, Serpentine Dominion. That's what that's called.
That's a pretty good album though.
Yeah. Has it got like some variety on it?
I feel like that was kind of like Adam D's venture. That I feel like him and Shannon hooked up first, and they were like kind of having like a fanboy thing. Like, fuck it, let's get George Fisher, and they're like,
Yeah.
he won't ever agree to this shit, and they get him on the fucking album. You know, like, oh shit, like he actually,
Yeah, holy shit.
Because I know that they all toured on Summer Slaughter, Black Dahlia, Killswitch, and Cannibal.
Yeah. How is Black Dahlia live?
All right, so I saw them.
I was meaning to. I hadn't talked to you, or I haven't talked to you about that since you went and seen them.
I saw them at Elevation 27 in Virginia Beach,
Yeah.
and that place is probably like a 200-person capacity club, and
You say 20?
200.
Oh, it's like 20.
Yeah. I mean they got it. That's like for people that don't know. I mean there's some pretty decent bands that go through there. Like I know Corrosion of Conformity, Crowbar, and Black Dahlia. I know that they played earlier this summer there, and One Less Life. I think they opened that show up. Autopsy Affair. They're from Hampton, Newport News, and Black Dahlia, they headlined. I don't think they had any support. And they came out and they were doing their latest release. I can't remember what the name of their latest release was. But I will say the one thing about them is that whole set list was back to back to back to back to back. It was like virtually like there was no... Trevor didn't really do any banter. And
yeah, there was no pause.
Yeah.
It was just like total obliteration.
Yeah. And it was very... That whole set list, like, I don't know how those dudes have the stamina to do that, but that shit was probably, like... Every song they were doing was, like, 200 beats a minute. Like, the whole set list. Except they did on Stirring Seas of Salted Blood, where they probably took, like, a break to, you know, recover from this fucking carpal tunnel-inducing fucking songs and riffage and shit. But,
So wait, do they like play their songs faster than they do like on the album?
Well, they played. I feel like half of that set was like their newer stuff. They did like Malenchantments of the Necrosphere. That's not really that new. That's from Ritual. But I know that they did. They did their staple songs.
That's less than 10 years ago, though, isn't it? Isn't like Ritual's like 2011?
2011, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
But they did. I mean, they did their staples like Statutory Ape. They did Death Mask Divine, stuff like that. But then a lot of the stuff I'd never heard because it was like new. It was either their most recent release or they did like Deflorate or anything like that. You know.
Yeah.
Where it was later, and I never checked those out. But they're fun. Like it was a lot of fun at that show. But I feel like if it's anything about shows that turns me off, it's usually not the bands, it's slam dancing. That turns me off about shows now.
Yeah, slam dancing.
Like I don't get it. You know what I mean? And people say that I'm like behind the times or that I'm not really aware of like how long that's been going on. But I don't really see the point in doing that at a show.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and I know the venues don't like it because it's a liability. I just don't understand it. You know, it's not moshing.
Well, like slam dancing isn't moshing. Slam dancing has been adopted through like metal, but started in like the hardcore punk.
Yeah,
sort of era.
But I mean, at the same time, like, if people were to say that, I'd be like, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm like, you mean G.G. Allen jumping off stage and beating the shit out of people? Like, that's like the equivalent of like slam dancing. It's literally like people will deliberately they'll go on crowd killing or whatever. Like I don't really
like
understand.
Crowd killing. Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that I don't appreciate. Like if somebody wants to like slam dance or whatever, like have their own kind of like little bubble, and you know,
or just don't
stomp
do
and swing
it
and
at
whatever.
The show.
But like, yeah, and it's like the thing that I don't ever like seeing is like when somebody is actually trying to target or hurt a particular person.
Yeah, because I
feel
like
it's like because that's completely the opposite of like why we're all there. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I've gotten straight fucked up in pits before.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like I'm bleeding, I'm bruised, maybe something's broken. But it's all in a sense of like you're all there having fun doing the same thing, and like accidents happen. And now like on the flip side of that, you have some people that literally target people and are crowd killing and hurting people on purpose, and that's not the. And I don't get down with that either.
And this is the thing, like I feel like I've seen this argument on forums or on YouTube, you know, videos, and I've even participated in some of these disagreements myself. there's two trains of thought here. People say, and this is my personal belief. I'm gonna put this out there first. I feel like not everyone who goes to a show and there's crowd killing there is a fan, but I feel like fans go to shows because they're fans. They're there to support the bands that they're representing or that they are fans of. They're contributing, buying merch, right? So, but at the same time, I feel like there are people, or there have been circumstances. It's hard to prove, but I mean, I feel like there are people that just go, they'll pay their admission to get into a show, which I mean can range from anywhere from $5 all the way up to $30 or 60, however much if you're at a festival setting, whatever. And they go in there and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of someone. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's always at least
They're
every show I've ever
opportunists.
been to. There's always at least one that, like, by the end of the show, you're like, that motherfucker just came here so he could fucking hit people.
Yeah, I remember. I went and saw Suicide Silence with when Mitch was still in the band back in 20.
12.
No,
11?
it wasn't. It wasn't even 2011. I think it was 2010.
10? Yeah, maybe 2.
Yeah,
Because I feel like I couldn't get off work for that show.
yeah, because
I was going to be there, but I couldn't get off work.
both Josh's, Jacob, we tried to hit you up, and I tried to hit Jeff up, and we it
Yeah,
was
I
them.
met you guys. I met you guys at Jeff's for the after party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was Matt. No, wait, no, Matt, not Matt Scott. Josh Stafford and his brother Jesse, I think. But
Yeah.
we were all there, and that was a great show. It was All Shall Perish, Suicide Silence, and who else was on that bill? I can't remember.
Ominous Conception.
I don't. Oh yeah, was that the Springfield band?
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost forgot about them. I think that I'm like 99% sure that's the band. But there was
Yeah,
another
I'm
band.
pretty
I think
sure
it was like
Ominous.
Winds of Plague, maybe Winds of Plague. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Something
that sounds
like
about
that.
right.
But I remember All Shall Perish and Suicide Silence being on that bill. And I remember there were people there. That was like my first exposure to slam dancing. And I was like, I saw this dude that was like 6 fucking feet tall, right? Goes in there.
Was that in Springfield?
It was at the
Was that at Outland?
Remingtons. I think it was Remingtons.
Oh, Remingtons.
I think that was the name of the venue. I think it closed down. It wasn't the Outland Ballroom because I'd never been to the Outland Ballroom when I was there. It was down.
You haven't ever been?
No, never went.
Dude, that's
The
my
Shrine
favorite venue.
or
That's my
Outland?
favorite venue in Springfield.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upstairs is great.
I never. Who'd you go see there?
Oh, I've seen a whole host of bands there. I've seen Thy Art Is Murder.
Oh shit! You saw them?
Yeah, Dying Fetus, Hour of Penance, Misery Index, Cannibal Corpse.
That was all the same bill.
No, those are two different bills. I'm just
Oh.
like trying to think of like who all I've seen at Outland. Ominous Conception. They opened up for one of these bands, and that was really cool because they actually played a cover of a Superjoint Ritual song.
Really?
I think it was It Takes No Guts.
What?
Yeah, they did a cover version of It Takes No Guts. And I was like, I swear, like I was looking around and I was freaking out because I loved Superjoint Ritual, especially, their first two. This was before they put out their third record. And I was like looking around and like nobody else knew like what the fuck they were playing, I guess. And I was just like freaking out because I was like, yes, like I love this, like you guys are fucking great. And yeah, I was like, I did not expect them to pull a Superjoint Ritual cover out of their ass.
So I've been like a Deftones fan like my whole life, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, from the time that you like fucking showed me the Deftones. I think you got a copy of their self-titled album from Xone.
Yeah,
you gave me a copy.
Yeah,
fucking
the
best
self-titled album.
fucking albums ever fucking released, right? So that's my experience with them. But I remember when we were watching Suicide Silence, they played Engine Number 9, right? And,
yeah, off of Adrenaline.
Yeah, and Jacob's like fucking, everyone's grabbing me like, oh my god, oh my god. I'm like,
Yo, holy
what?
shit.
They're like, this is a fucking Deftones song, bro. I'm like, I don't listen to that era of Deftones, bro. So
Yeah.
I still can't get into that era. Like, I love when they became more
like White Pony.
Yeah, when they got more of like pop sensibilities. That's why I like listening to the Deftones. I don't listen to them because they're heavy. I listen to them because it's like Morrissey, or it's like, there's some Smiths, there's like there's 80s pop stuff in there, but it's like with heavy 8-string guitars. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I wish these guys would be in the top 40. You know what I mean? Like, this is the
Yep.
shit. This should be pop music. Like, this is a pop song. Like, right here. I mean,
Yeah.
Chino will like scream on some stuff. I mean, but I
When
feel
was
like
the
there's still
last
a niche band. Like, I remember when I was getting my tattoo, like I got some line work done, and I got the White Pony logo.
Yeah.
And I was talking with the artist. He's like, he didn't even know what that was. I was like, we were in there talking about music. We were listening to music, and like he'd never checked out the Deftones. I guess that's just something that like, that doesn't really appeal to most people that are into heavy music. I wouldn't even consider them a heavy band, but
Right. Yeah.
still a fucking awesome band.
But then like like when was the last time you checked out or ran through Saturday Night Wrist?
I usually listen to the Deftones pretty regularly. I'll listen to everything from their self-titled White Pony. The albums that I usually go back to, I've been listening to what is that album? It has Poltergeist, Entombed. What's that?
No Koi or
Koi no Yokan.
Yeah,
Koi no Yokan and Diamond Eyes.
Yeah.
That's another huge album.
Yeah, this last couple weeks I've been Saturday Night Wrist has been in my heavy rotation, and so has the Koi no Yokan.
That one's got more. I think there's more like rock on that one. I think that because
yeah, it's almost like very like shoegazy to me.
Yeah, it's really, all their albums are really dense. That's the one thing I love about them.
Yeah, dense and layered, and yeah.
That's fucking
beautiful.
But no,
there was like on Saturday Night Wrist, the song Combat. I think it's like track 10, Combat. So like it starts off with this very soft, musical like composition or whatever. And I think it's kind of like kind of atmospheric, maybe kind of maybe some beats in there or whatever. And then like it just explodes after about a minute and a half. And it's just this very explosive track, and he's just like flying off of the handle, like just like from the get-go vocally, and then goes into his very kind of flowy whisper like singing, and then goes back to that explosive level again. And that song Combat on Saturday Night Wrist, like this last week I've been like addicted to that song, and it's like I've been listening to Saturday Night Wrist for years and years and years and years, and it's just like something that's odd to me about the Deftones is it doesn't matter what album it is of their discography, like it's always fresh to me.
And I feel like the one thing I like about them is too, they'll have like themes. Like there will be like an album will focus on like there's like a central theme.
Yeah.
Like with it's kind of weird, like Saturday Night Wrist, I feel like there's a lot of like sarcasm, or there's like a story there that's like, I feel, and I kind of like got this idea from like watching another commentator on YouTube where he was talking about understanding the Deftones. And it's like, what is the Deftones? It's talking about the Deftones is shower sex. The Deftones is like unanswered or unreturned calls. It's like it's relationship anxiety. It's very human. You know what I mean? There's like unrequited love. And like you listen to that album, there's like a weird track, since you brought up Saturday Night Live's Pink Cell Phone. It's a weird fucking it's like that's a filler. But there's the phone call one where she's talking about English people have bad teeth or some shit like that.
Yeah, from like
it's a weird fucking butt sex, like what?
Yeah, blowjobs.
Yeah. It's like a burn call, like someone's someone's leaving a fucked up voicemail to someone.
Yep.
But as far as
Pink Cell Phone is the track before Combat.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think in my mind, because the only song that keeps coming to my head is Kim Dracula.
And Kim Dracula
is my fucking favorite song.
Combat. Yeah, and Kim Dracula, and then you have like, what is that, Riviere or whatever, the album closer. But yeah, it's like the last the last half of Saturday Night Wrist, like from like track 6. Now I'm not taking away from the other tracks because I think the entire album is amazing, but literally like every second from track 6 to like track 12, like I wish I could like figure out how to live in that soundscape,
Mm.
like inside of that emotion.
He's a great fucking musician. I'm gonna give a lot of credit to Chino Marino because that guy's fucking brilliant. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Um,
and he's really unorthodox. Like, I don't think he really has a whole lot of understanding about music, like from a technical standpoint. But he's like, this sounds good. This is how you write a song.
yeah, yeah. This is how I can this is how I can express, and that's how I'm going to roll with it. It's
Yeah.
how I've always kind of. But yeah, and then in deep within like their layers, and something that I've always kind of noticed is I always thought that there was like a very sensual
Yeah.
just aspect
It's a
to
very
the
very
music
female.
itself.
Like, there's a
Yeah.
female presence in those songs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a very beautiful thing. Like, and listen to that. Like, I think like that's a central theme. Is like, I think it's like a subliminal thing too. It's like just the female form. You know, I don't
Yep.
know, but that, and I think if it's one thing I like turn my wife on to, I think she's like, I've made her a fan of the Deftones because of like, everyone like Change. She bought that she bought the White Pony album because of that song, and listen to that song on vinyl. She's like, loves that fucking song. But then also Palms. I think I've listened to that album more than I've ever listened to any Deftones album.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point now where I'll listen to that in the house and like she'll be like, how many times you can listen to this album? I'm like, that's the thing. I listen to a whole album. I don't listen to a song.
Yeah.
It literally is one piece in my mind. It's like,
Yep.
I
And
know what song and what order, and I don't think of them as songs. I'm like, oh, this is the first half of the album.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, and I definitely have bands that like I basically listen to their entire album like it's one song.
Yeah. And like you take you take a song and you're like, oh, this is weird. I never knew that was the song.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the second half.
Yeah. And I do that too because somebody's like, yeah, like what is this? And I'm like, like I don't even know which song this is because I always just listen to the entire album like it's one song.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot with like Pig Destroyer.
And I feel like with them it would be easier, especially like their earlier stuff. I'm still getting used to their catalog, or I'm still getting acquainted with it. So I really only know about their newer stuff. And you told me about like Prowler in the Yard, so I checked that out. And I have like more of an appreciation for that stuff because I've been listening to a lot like more hardcore and punk music, and I'm like, this shit's fucking badass.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I definitely enjoy a healthy dose of punk in, my metal soundscape.
And I feel like that is the thing that I was always looking for in music. I feel like the thing that, and I found it early on, I thought what I really wanted was more extreme death metal grind, things like that, which are great, you know what I mean?
Right.
I love really extreme forms of music, but when I listened to Chaos AD and Pantera, I was like, what is this part that's here? Like, what is this? Is it like,
yeah.
What is that considered? And then I realized, oh, that's hardcore. I started listening to more hardcore. That's the one thing I've dived into. I'm like, why the fuck did I never listen to this shit? Like, I knew about Crowbar and I knew about Sepultura, but I never knew about what bands they listened to, and I never knew about what bands were going on at the time and what they influenced.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's like with like whole sludge metal sort of movement, in New
that's
Orleans.
why I fell in love with that whole scene.
Like I remember listening to Mike Nine and Kirk Weinstein doing an interview one time, and they were like, he was like, Mike Nine, he said, basically how to sum up the entire legitimacy of this NOLA scene. He's like, it's one part Black Flag and one part Melvins.
Oh, shit.
Is basically what he said. He was like, you got that hardcore sludgy edge um, of Black Flag mixed in with that sludgy, slow, kind of gravelly yelling vocal of, those early Melvin records like Ozma or Gluey Porch Treatments and stuff like that, from like '86. And they even went as far as to say Carnivore, Peter Still
Mm-hmm.
with Carnivore. Kirk went on to say, like, I think there's a song on there that's like, I don't know, not like Jack and Pizza. I think that's the opening track where the dude's puking. But there's a track on Retaliation, Carnivore's second album, that Kirk said if you listen to his vocal approach, Peter Stills on that track, he's like, that's basically the foundation of how I sing every Crowbar song.
That is so weird. Like when I think of Peter Steele, I don't think of. I've tried to listen to Carnivore, or what was that? Jesus, Hitler, Kill All the White People.
Yeah, Jesus, Hitler, Adolf Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into it because like when I'm not a huge Type O Negative fan, but when I think of Peter Steele, that's what I think of is Type O Negative.
Right.
So
which like his first, the first Type O album is kind of like the bastard third album of Carnivore, really. Because if you listen to Slow, Deep, and Hard, the first Type O album, I mean, it really is. It's a bastard child of Carnivore. Like, he still has his, like, kind of snarled, yelling vocal. The vampire gothic theme was somewhat there on their first album, but it very much was like 80% Carnivore, 20% Type O, that first Type O album. So, I mean, I don't know. I've always thoroughly enjoyed Carnivore, but I like, it was kind of like a crossover album. Those Carnivore albums, where it was like kind of just like a, I don't know, kind of a crossover kind of thrash. Kind of had a hardcore, obviously, that kind of goes without saying, but yeah, that kind of hardcore thrash, kind of punk sort of mentality, injected into the music. But I'm a big fan of crossover, like, your Cryptic Slaughter and DRI and, SOD or all of those guys. Like, I've always considered DRI to be the masters of, I call it the masters of slow thrash, but they're just like
slow thrash.
Yeah, slow thrash. It's just mid-tempo thrash is all it is. That's all DRI to me is like if you had a bunch of kick-ass, well, at least they're, like their mid to late sort of period, because they hadn't put out an album since like 95. I mean, I know they put out like EPs and stuff, like As Seen on TV somewhat recently, but like their actual crossover albums, not their hardcore punk albums, are just like mid-tempo thrash that just, their riffs and the syncopated freaking drums and the rhythms like in there just like crawl in your head and just make you want to headbang. And it's this powerful, mid-paced, slow sort of riff that just, I mean, it just makes you want to stomp.
And I feel like we'd be doing people a disservice by not mentioning, since we talked about sludge metal, we talked about thrash crossover, we talked about the South, and I feel like if we mention all those things, we don't mention Exorder. I feel like that'd be doing people a disservice. Because I feel like, what the hell was that? Murder in the Vatican? Is that what the name of that album is? I can't.
Slaughter in the Vatican. Yeah, Slaughter in the Vatican and The Law.
Yeah. I never checked out The Law, but I know you tried to show me a copy of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a copy of Slaughter in the Vatican stolen out of my car several years ago, and I was pretty upset about it because all they did was they took the CD and they left the case and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a remastered version through like Metal Minds, and it was like a limited sort of edition where there was only 2,000 copies of the album, like made through this Metal Mind production, and yeah, the bastards stole it. But yeah, yeah, I think Ex Hoarder is just like one of those bands that was like has always kind of been buried underneath like other bands.
Well, there's a
Never got the
resurgence. I
same
mean,
sort of.
they got back with
Oh yeah, that
Nuclear Blast. I think that's
yeah
who picked them up.
yeah. I mean, it's just 27 years in the making because
Mm-hmm.
their last album came out the year I was born.
Holy shit.
So yeah, 27 years between second and third album. But it's like obviously being from New Orleans, and I guess kind of how the story goes is, I mean, Phil was, because they were doing shows or being live or releasing stuff in some way, shape, or form all the way back in like 86, 87.
I didn't know they
And
went back that far.
yeah, and so like Phil being from New Orleans himself, he was very much aware of the band, and I guess kind of how the thing goes is after the power metal, Pantera days and
Mm-hmm.
that Phil was on, and they were kind of looking at going a different direction. I think Ex Hoarder was a relevant band in Phil's mind when going for the newly created Pantera sound. Because I do think there are several qualities from Ex Hoarder that are evident in
Oh hell yeah,
Pantera.
especially their debut album in Vulgar. And I feel like that was a big falling out that Monty Monizeri, you know who that is? The original guitarist for I guess that was the Illegals, I guess. He's not with them
Yeah.
anymore. But I
Yeah,
think like
he's with Ex Hoarder.
yeah, it's kind of weird though, because at the same time, like they had a big falling out, like, and he was talking shit on Phil Anselmo's camp, and he was basically saying how he ripped them off anyways, or Pantera ripped them off, and they basically,
where
took their
Ex
formula.
Hoarder where Ex Hoarder could never be accepted, in a mainstream, even in the metal mainstream sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because of their first album's called Slaughter in the Vatican. They have songs on there about anal lust, talking about, so like their accessibility was already much lower than say like Cowboys from Hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the subject matter, it's like obviously, don't get me wrong, like I love Cowboys from Hell, but it's a tad more accessible than Slaughter in the Vatican is. Like from a commercial standpoint,
But listen
or
to
reaching audiences. So they became this underground gym where Pantera got this success that was basically borrowed from the sound of Ex Hoarder, where Ex Hoarder eventually dissolved fairly quickly, and Pantera carried that Ex Hoarder torch into just, a number one record.
And it's crazy too to think
Far
about.
Beyond Driven.
And it's crazy to think about like how certain bands will gain public support while other bands don't, even though there's really, and I guess that goes for anything in life. It's just like a luck of the draw, really. But it's like you could take a band like Pantera at the height of their career at the very end in the early 2000s. It's like, the direction they ended up going. They were, they made it to the top 10. They, just like you said, in 1994, they were number 1 on the Billboard fucking 100. But at the same time, it's like they became, they garnered public support, but at the same time, they might as well have been a band like Ex Hoarder, or a band that literally was kind of more inaccessible, because it's like, listen to the Phil Anselmo's like banter when he was doing live shit, like him being fucked up on pills and whiskey, or him not giving a fuck or not wanting to go out there and tour. It's like, how is it this band can sell out like a huge arena and they're, just as inflammatory as this other band.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
like
and that's
just
the
the
thing
shit,
that
just the content that they would talk about,
yeah,
But
and that's the thing with Pantera that literally why because I guess some people shit on Pantera or whatever for various reasons, like meth metal.
yeah,
But the thing that I've always admired and what always keeps me, you know, uh, safely placed as a fan of Pantera is as time went on and they garnered more and more success, they didn't they didn't let the mainstream like consume them where eventually they were putting out like Five Finger Death Punch records. You know what I mean? They legitimately, as time went on, they continued to get heavier and heavier.
I feel like, well, just like anything, I feel like they had a formula that worked for them, but I feel like at the same time there was a divisiveness within, you know, the
Right.
band
I just
because it's
feel like
like
it'd
the
have been very
direction.
easy for them to like put out like a load or reload
Oh yeah,
and make tons of fucking money
yeah,
doing so, but chose to like after they did a number one album in Far Beyond Driven and then to go into the studio very much as frayed people because most of the recording they weren't even like in the same room together.
no,
The
Phil was
band
down
recorded
south at
in Texas and then the Phil recording in Louisiana, I think.
with what's his name from Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor
Yeah, Trent
at his
Reznor.
studio. But
Yeah, and like the other, yeah, and then like everybody else is I don't know if it's like Terry Date.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if that sounds right, but
And you were like the biggest supporter of the Great Southern Trendkill. That's a hard album to listen to.
yeah, and it so like they have like a choice where they're like, yeah, we're like literally on top of the world with Far Beyond Driven, and they're like, well, what do we do? And it's like,
Go in the opposite direction.
yeah, let's just make the nastiest like fucking Seth Putnam from Anal Cunt does appears on Great Southern Trendkill I think a couple times doing kind of just like background vocals of just like pure like sickening like nihilistic just acid screaming just like sounds like pain. And so like that's their response for after writing you know a number one album is to just like basically dive into just absolute madness of just like drug fueled just crazy. I don't know, it just like the Great Southern Trendkill just blows my mind as just this like sweet, like not that Far Beyond Driven wasn't heavy and and great, but like the fucking sheer magnitude of the album that followed just like blows my mind.
Yeah. And it's weird too because I feel like at the same time as inaccessible and as dense as that album was listening, you take a song like Suicide Note Part 2 and it's like that's a terrible introduction to Pantera. Like if I told
Yeah.
you go listen to this song, you would probably never listen to Pantera after that.
Yeah,
like,
you probably because it's like
fucking
literally
obnoxious. It's like this sounds like
yeah, the
fucking
dude
garbage, man. Like
yeah, it's just like it was just straight up. I just look at that album as just like a big middle finger.
yeah.
Fuck you. I'll do whatever I want to do, sort of thing.
But at the same time, too, it's like that album was the last one that had any melodicism on it. I mean, because you had Tens and Floods
Yeah.
and Suicide Note Part 1. Those are like very moody, like ballads. Like, they're not talking about.
Definitely kind of have like their own flavor.
Yeah. But there's no melodicism. There was nothing. There was a lot of moody stuff on there, but it was like more aggressive, And there's, there was. I don't think there was no melodicism on Reinventing the Steel.
Yeah, even though and people shit on that album too, and I'm like, man, that's
album.
a fucking fun record.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
That's
Between like your, Will Grind This Axe or the Hellbound or
I think
Revolution,
that was their attempt. I think people are like, yeah,
Goddamn Electric,
oh yeah, that whole
like
fucking album is great. So there's 10 cuts on that album, and they're all good. Like there's not a song on there that's bad. That's the album that's literally like, if it were a person, I think that would be like the person that has the road soda in their car. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
that's like that's just to me that's like the very awesome, just kind of really cool, chill, like
or like you
Pantera.
literally do what is on the fucking front of that album. You have a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
people over
you
and have a
pick, yeah,
bonfire. You get shit faced and do stupid shit.
yeah,
Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
You grab a bottle, you play with some fire, and you have some fucking fun.
Yeah.
Well,
But
and then like the odes to like Black Sabbath and Slayer and stuff on that album, I just thought was just like absolutely fucking killer.
yeah, what's he say? Your trust
Trust
is
is in
whiskey,
whiskey and
weed, and
weed
Black
and Black
Sabbath. Yeah,
Sabbath. It's goddamn electric,
yeah.
and then he says your trust is in whiskey, weed, and Slayer.
That's
It's just like, cause like, I mean, yeah, Slayer's, obviously is a huge band, and so is Black Sabbath. Like, I absolutely love Black Sabbath. Like, to this day, I just have, I don't know,
but you like the
being,
weird era. You like Born Again.
yeah, and that's what, is that Ian Gillan
Yeah,
from
from
Deep
Deep
Purple?
Purple.
Yeah, I mean, I have that album, like, I'm looking at that album right now on cassette.
That was I don't know. I guess people would say that was their weird area, but at the same time, like when I think of Black Sabbath, I think of Master Reality, and I think of Volume
Yeah, I mean,
4.
that's like the definitive, like, Black Sabbath sound. But I mean, I'm a huge Ronnie James Dio fan. And the three Ronnie James Dio Black Sabbath albums kick ass. That being like Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and Dehumanizer. And oddly enough, here's what's cool is I have a copy on CD of Dehumanizer,
Mm-hmm.
and it has everybody's signature.
You got a signed copy?
Yeah, I have a signed copy from everybody in the band, including what's his name, Nichols, the keyboard player, like the unofficial, like fifth member of Black Sabbath.
Wait, you have a signed copy with Ronnie
Yeah,
James
from
Dio's autograph
Ronnie James Dio's autograph.
and Tony
The
Iommi.
entire and Tony Iommi and what's his name?
Talking about Bill Ward? Was he still in the band?
No, it wasn't Bill Ward. It was his guy from Dio.
Oh,
Why can't I think? I was wanting to say like Cozy Powell or whatever his name is, but that's not it. It's
was
starts
Bob
with an
Daisley? Was that Ozzy Osbourne's bass? I gotta look him up. I'm not even sure.
yeah. I can't believe I can't think of it at the moment. I feel like his last name is an S.
I'm not sure.
I'll figure.
How
this
much did
out.
you pay for that?
Like $6. Vinny Appice, that's what his
Oh
name is. Yeah.
shit!
So yeah, it's Geezer Butler, Ronnie James Dio, Tony Iommi, Vinny Appice, and Jeff Nichols that plays keyboards.
That
And
is
yeah,
so
I've
weird.
got everybody's signature on here. And it's like, sweet.
What the fuck?
And then like I have a Broken Hope record. Their second album, Bowels of Repugnance, which I love Broken Hope. But their lead singer, Joe, it's really hard I don't quite know how to pronounce his last name, but he eventually committed suicide.
Really?
Yeah, I think in like 2001 or 1999. Well, this Bowels of Repugnance, this album came out in like 92. Well, I have a signed copy of that album too, with the original lineup from that album. So like, I have two dead guys' as signatures.
That is crazy. You know what's crazy
And
about
both
Broken
of those
Hope?
albums were released the year I was born. So
I tried to get into Broken Hope. I thought they were going to be a little different than what I was expecting. I think I gotta go back and give them a re-listen. The reason I found out about them though was because their guitarist, he ended up buying Jeff Hanneman's estate, all of his
yeah,
guitars and equipment, and
yep,
so I was like, oh shit, like this dude, like
yeah. Jeremy Wagner.
I'm not sure. I gotta look
Yeah,
him up.
no, I love Broken Hope. Like my like brutal, like like say like getting into like brutal death metal, like the three bands that really kind of catapulted me into brutal death metal, I would say, and not talking like Suffocation because obviously, yeah, but Internal Bleeding, Dying Fetus, and Broken Hope. I just thought like was my holy grail, like my trinity of like brutal death metal. And Internal Bleeding's newest album, Harmony Corruption. My God, I can't believe that a band that has been, you know, literally been, trading tapes and CDs and stuff since the early '90s puts out an album, and it literally sounds just like their classic, like first album, Voracious Concept or whatever that album was called. It's like, this is amazing. Like, you guys are great. You're kicking ass live. And then their drummer, right before the album's like finished, dies in a New York fire, fighting it because he's a fireman, I guess. But it's like, yeah, Internal Bleeding. Those guys are the shit.
I feel like that's usually how shit happens. Like, so much potential usually ends up being wasted by like the most unfortunate of events, and then like you're only left with like, wow, I wonder what could have been.
Yeah.
Just nothing but left, like just potential, just that'll never be fulfilled,
Yeah, well, and that's the same way with like always like one of my favorite drummers in like metal was I mean, honestly, like I have a list of them, but like some of my favorite drummers are like Dale Crover.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, Dale Crover just blows my mind. Dude, just awesome.
You ever check out Shrine Builder?
Yes.
Oh fuck, I literally, that's probably
Dude,
the coolest
Wino.
project, dude, because you got Scott from Neurosis, you got Scott from Wino, and then Dale
Scott
Crover,
Wino.
and then you got Al from Sleep.
Yeah, Al Cisneros.
Like, how the fuck did they all like? I was always curious, like, how did the label, like, did the label get them together? Did they decide to get together? All I know is they never did a follow up because Scott Wino never wanted to work with Al ever again. He's like, that dude's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You know you're bad when Scott fucking Wino doesn't want to work with you.
I don't want any part of this.
That dude's fucking got busted for taking meth through Germany.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, I've seen him live with Devin Townsend.
Scott Wino?
Yeah, I got to see The Obsessed.
Open for Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's weird.
And then after Devin Townsend was done, Clutch got on stage.
Dude, don't even get me started with Clutch. Dude, I have a theory about Clutch, speaking of Dale Crover. They're a Melvins ripoff. Like, I'm convinced they're, like, I just have this theory in my mind. I'm like, I was listening to the Melvins, and I'm like, you know why people don't listen to the Melvins? Clutch.
Yeah, because everybody's listening to Clutch.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people are into Clutch, and I'm like, you ever heard of the Melvins? They're like,
huh?
Is it, what? I'm like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah, what the fuck is wrong?
They got like 30 albums. How the fuck have you never heard of them?
Yeah.
You know who Buzz Osborne is? Like, what the fuck is this shit? Guy looks like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
They're like the
one
Melvins
band. Have always been
that never got big. They've been around for like 30 fucking years. But there's a huge
Yeah.
cult following, like,
Well,
you know.
just recently I picked up it's called the Mangled Demos
Mm-hmm.
from 1983 from the Melvins. It's the first stuff they ever recorded, and it's the only recording of the actual original Melvins lineup.
Mm-hmm.
That so like these are just it's like 15, 20 tracks that was recorded in 1983. And let's see here. It's Mike Dillard on drums, Matt Lutkin on bass, and Buzz Osborne vocals and guitar.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and this is the only recording of original Melvins, like the actual original first members of the Melvins.
Mm.
And half the shit's not even listenable.
But just the
But
quality,
I was
or
like, I need this. Because it's like, this is the first shit they ever recorded, so.
did you ever check out Phantomas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that same day that I had my Slaughter in the Vatican record stolen, I had a Phantomas album in my car. It's like director's cut.
Yeah, where they
like
do
that.
all the they do the interpretation of the movie themes or the covers.
Yeah, and they had that was it. I had that in there as well, and that was one of them that got lifted, along with about 10 other albums that I was so pissed off.
Why
Like, they
you
took,
would
like, my
steal
Autopsy.
CDs?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, took all. Yeah, they didn't even take the cases. Like, they just.
Well,
took
someone's
the
obviously
CDs.
a fan of music, so.
Yeah, but like, I think like Autopsy, Severed Survival was in there. Probably, and I think Graves' first album, Into the Grave,
Oh shit.
that was in there. There's a few other ones too that I was just like, motherfucker. You're just like, God, leave my shit alone.
But then again,
But
you
yeah,
definitely someone who was a fan of fucking like legit old school fucking death metal lifted your shit out of your car, and they were like, "God, I fucking need to support my meth habit." Oh, dude, this guy, check out these fucking CDs, man. Oh fuck, yeah, I can sell this car stereo
like, I
for
don't even know.
$15.
Yeah, it's like I don't even really. I don't know. I've never understood the mind of people that steal things, because like if I ever see something that somebody has and I want it, I'm not like, I'm gonna fucking go and take it. I'm like, I'm gonna go look for my own. I don't know, but yeah, what I was saying earlier about Dale Crover though, so like I've always just kind of worshipped at the altar that is Dale Crover, and probably like my second favorite, which I've always kind of felt like in some ways he's a lot like Dale Crover and better in some ways, and that's Joey LaCaze of I Hate God. Like when it comes to that sludgy, like to play percussion and drums for I Hate God, he just has the template down. Like sludge drums, it's like I would love to have seen a battle of Dale Crover and Joey LaCaze, like go and do just like sludge drumming. But so it's funny that like I love Dale Crover and I love Joey LaCaze, and then he died, and Joey LaCaze died in like 2014.
Wait, did you say Dale Crover died?
No,
Oh,
Joey
I was like,
LaCaze
oh.
of the I Hate God, that he died in like 2014, and they had a couple of tours that they already had booked, and none other than Dale Crover stepped in. Joey, the recently deceased Joey LaCaze, and fucking nailed every single show. Just did just wonderful. And way back then, after all of that was happening, because I'm a really big I Hate God fan, I was like, How fucking amazing would it be if Dale Crover was
When played
full
with I Hate
time?
God.
Yeah, Dale Crover with I Hate God full time. I was like, God, please make this happen.
Did you ever check out Randy Bly filling in for Mike?
Yeah, yeah. That tour that he was filling in for, half of that tour, Phil also filled in for the vocal duties.
Really?
Yeah, so it was half of it was Randy, and the other half was Phil. And I'll tell you what, with like Phil's, uh, recent vocal approach, absolutely perfect. Like fits in perfectly
It
with
worked.
I Hate God's sound and their new stuff. I mean, their newest album was recorded in the housecore, so I'm sure, like, especially with the newest material, I'm sure he probably knows it like the back of his hand. I mean, and probably with all of their stuff, but yeah, Randy kicked a lot of ass too. Like, I mean, he just has that register within him to hit those ghastly sick vibes that Mike Nine puts off. So yeah, and with Mike Nine and and his whole kidney thing and everything else, hope that bastard doesn't ever die, because I've yet to have seen them live, and the last couple times they've been somewhat close. Like they'll come all the way, it's like close enough to like Arkansas to me, and I just have something else going on, and I couldn't go and catch the show. But
I missed I Hate God like twice. They used to come down to Virginia Beach. I think they've been in here like twice. I missed them. I missed Gojira. Yeah. Missed some pretty good fucking bands, man. I was literally downtown when they were on the marquee when they were actually playing the night. And I was doing something else. I couldn't go see the show, and I was like, what the fuck? But I never really got too much into them. I feel like as far as that style of music, I feel like they had like a big influence, and I know we talked about them earlier, but like Primitive Man.
mm-hmm.
Except Primitive Man kind of took it to like a little more extreme, but like just like really, even it says in the name, like it's just this really primitive, raw, stripped down, really, I don't know, just like black and white, you know?
Yeah.
And even the content that like I Hate God, like what they talked about, like fucking pretty much getting like, what the hell was that? Like huffing bleach or some shit like that, or
yeah, just all really, manners of
just like absurd, weird shit.
Yeah, and another band for like, that I've always considered to be very much like worshippers of the I Hate God sound being Iron Monkey.
I never checked them out.
I don't know if you've ever.
I've heard of them. I know.
Yeah,
you
they're
always
from
talk
the
UK.
Yeah, and the thing that's like, I guess maybe noteworthy is, like the Coca-Cola Plex in like '96 when Phil overdosed.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I think actually
the album. Apparently, the album he was listening to while overdosing was one of the two Iron Monkey. I guess it'd been their first album. The first Iron Monkey album, which is, I think it's self-titled because the second album's called Our Problem. So it's, the Iron Monkey album that he supposedly was what it was listening to as, I guess, the overdose was taking place.
I'm gonna check out Iron Monkey really quick. See who.
But yeah, they take a lot of pride, I think, in their sound, and it's being very closely related to I Hate God.
Fans.
I mean, I don't know if that's intentional or not, but
shit.
It is.
For fans of Cough, they're out here from Richmond, Virginia. Yob,
Mm-hmm.
Goat Snake, Burning Witch. I remember you showed me Burning Witch.
Yeah.
Crowbar, Electric Wizard, Bong Ripper. Bong Ripper. That's one thing I will fucking say. I saw Day of the Shred down in Santa Ana back in like 2014, and it
Yeah,
was
kicking some serious ass.
Weed Eater. It was
Yeah, dude,
them,
I
Weed
love
Eater,
Weed Eater.
Windhand, Bong Ripper, 16, Elder. That was the first time I ever saw Elder. Who
Yeah,
fucking, if
Elder's
you've never
fucking
heard
great, dude.
Elder, holy fucking shit. But Bong Ripper was fucking ridiculous. I had to like literally leave, like my chest hurt. I'd never heard a band like that loud. Weed Eater was fucking fun. Like everyone had fun when Weed Eater was on. Their drummer, I can't remember what the fuck his name is, but they had the weirdest stage setup. Like he was up front sitting sideways. He wasn't on the drum riser. He was in the front of the stage.
Yeah.
And like they were I had to leave like
Yeah, he's
2 songs before
awesome
they
to
were done.
watch.
They were awesome. Weed Eater was fucking sick. So
Yeah, it's like what, like Dixie and Shepherd and I forget what the drummer's name is. I thought he died though.
Dixie Dave, I don't know who the guitarist was, but the drummer, I'm gonna look them up. Let me see. Yeah, definitely that. I feel like I fell way deep into that. And Windhand, they were fun. I saw them there, and I saw them open for High on Fire. And Cough, believe it or not, is the same band without Dorothea Cottrell. From my understanding, it's the same band. But I think they're more like black metal. I think that was their, because Windhand is more doomy, trippy, and I guess Cough is more abrasive.
More of that abrasive sort of black metal styling.
Yeah. But who's another band they recommended? Church of Misery. I never heard of them.
Yeah, I've got what is that album called? The Second Coming. I have that album. Yeah, they're from Japan.
Yeah.
And they sing about everything they sing about is serial killers.
What?
Yeah, every track is about a different serial killer.
I feel like that's a
But they on that album they do this really cool cover of this very obscure 70s like desert rock band.
Wait, let me see. I'm gonna go to them right now. Church of
It's
Misery.
Cactus is the name of the band.
Oh shit, okay.
And so they have this they cover this song on that album that's called One Way or Another. And the original came out in like 1970.
You're talking about The Second Coming?
Yeah, like the Second Coming, but the song, the 70s rock band that they covered was Cactus, a Cactus song on there. And this song came out in like 1970. And if you go back and you listen to the original, like, I was there for a long time. I was on a quest to find like the heaviest music of the 70s, because obviously heavy metal was alive in the 70s. It just maybe wasn't called heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like there for a while, I was going and trying to search for the earliest of like heavy metal stuff, which like, you know, kind of ran me to like, you know, your stuff like, I mean, wait, who are we just talking about?
You were talking about Church of Misery.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, so like say like this Cactus song, very, very fuzzy, distorted, just awesome metal riff in this song, and it's like very clear to see why they would cover a song like this. But you know, and then like on this search to find just like some of the oldest heavy music, you know, that you could find, like I was convinced that I found the true first like American metal band, and that being like Sir Lord Baltimore. They had that song. It was called Kingdom Come. The album came out in like 1970, 1971, something like that. You listen to this, because everybody's always like, I'm sure you've ran across that person that's like, is Led Zeppelin metal?
Well,
You know
I
what I
would
mean?
say that they were
And I'm like,
definitely the pioneers
yeah,
of
I mean,
heavy
don't get me
metal.
wrong, like they were very, very heavy, but I just always felt like Led Zeppelin was always very heavy in the classic rock sense,
They were
where like
they were just a
Black
blues
Sabbath was
band
heavy
though.
to me,
Just like Black Sabbath was a blues
right? But
band.
like Black Sabbath was heavy to me, like a metal band is heavy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they just didn't have the same sort of flair. So then, like I listened to this Sir Lord Baltimore record, and I'm like, this is heavy, like American music. And then like I ran across this Japanese band called like the Traveling Flower Band,
Oh yeah.
and they had the album. It's called Satori.
Didn't they have like some Godzilla song or something like that? I'm trying to think. Cause there's some
Oh
I gotta look
God,
them. What the hell? I gotta look
probably.
them.
I mean, I know like Blue Oyster Cult had a Godzilla song,
No, I gotta look them up because there's a song I
but
heard. What the hell is it called?
but this like blues traveling band or whatever, not blues, traveling flower band.
Yeah.
Like they put out that album Satori. It was like again like 1970, 1971, and it is like the dirtiest, doomy. Like these guys were obviously influenced very quickly by Black Sabbath
Mhm.
because they have a very similar sound, like music wise. Now the vocalist,
I feel so fucked up, man.
he kind of does just like whatever he wants to do, but it's like so fucking crushingly heavy for like 1970. It just like blows my mind. Or
So
even just like going back and listening to like those old like Scorpion records.
I feel like I just fucking profiled this band. The only reason why I said they had that Godzilla song, they're fucking
It's because they're
Japanese.
Japanese.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Fucking, oh man. Because I remember like watching, they did like some show recently, like a few years ago, and they played that song, and like everyone's freaking out, and they're like, in Japan or Korea, wherever they're from, and it sounds like traditional Japanese music, but they're just playing with like electric guitars and a bass and drums.
Yeah.
I mean, not a fan of their vocals. That shit
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. I
sucks.
mean, and that's what I was saying. Like he's just like.
Yeah.
He
So
just kind of does
if you
like
ever check
whatever.
out fucking Traveling Flower Band, just be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vocals,
The vocals
not good.
probably aren't for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I've always just kind of been continually searching, like, and like I also like doing a thing where it's like finding the heaviest records before like of the 80s before 1986, because I feel like 1986 is like that game changing year, like whenever thrash explodes and some of the most extreme metal albums of the 80s, like, so it's like 85 to 1980. Like I love like finding like what the fuck was like really pushing the envelope between the years of like 1980 and 1985. And it's like you run across like that Witchfinder General album, their first album, Death Sentence or whatever it's called, I forget, but it's got the like Salem witch trials. They got like a naked witch that they're getting ready to murder on the front cover. But it's like that album came out in like 1982, and there's like 3 or 4 songs on there that just absolutely just kick so much ass. And it's like, thank you, Black Sabbath, for existing, because Witchfinder General is a fan, and I'm a fan of Witchfinder General. So it's just like I thoroughly enjoy like trying to dig for those like hidden classic albums.
And it's so weird too, cause like you can. take something and it's like how you can abstract different things. Like, okay, Black Sabbath influenced this band to put out an album that had an album cover that was really provocative. And then you go 25 years later in the future and you look at a band, I gotta look them up, but it was the album cover with, I think it was like some slam or some brutal death metal band. It was like two old men's severed heads that were pushed together. Their mouth, like,
Pungent Stench.
I gotta look that up.
Pungent Stench.
If
been
you've
caught
never
buttering.
seen that fucking album cover, that's I don't think I've ever seen an album cover that topped that.
Yeah. Now, like, I always, like, kind of sit back and I think about, like, Devourment's Molesting the Decapitated.
Let me see if I can
And it
find
just, like, has, like, a picture of that dude and his head's cut off and he's naked and he's sitting in a freaking, like, kitchen chair.
Wait, what's...
It's like...
Say that... Wait, who was that? Okay, yeah, Pungent Stench, Been Caught Buttering, but what was the one that you just said right now?
Molesting the Decapitated. Devourment. Like, that's such a like classic period slam album.
That's such a... What the fuck?
Hey, wait, had you never seen that?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
This dude's like fucking... What the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's so weird because it's like... I think that, okay, that's the only style of music where you can talk about those things or where there's commentary and you can abstract those things together. So, like, the one thing this was the last thing that I was, that I wanted to tie everything up. I was going to talk about themes and, themes that lend themselves to this style of music. How is it, like, is it a commentary? Or is it because people can talk about these things because of the style of music? It's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, it just so happens people want to express these ideas, or is it because they're the only things that can go with that type of music?
Yeah. See, well, I've always kind of been in the camp of like, for years, somebody hits the scene and they're like really fast or really heavy, and then like that influences a new generation of people that want to be faster and heavier or more brutal or whatever. So I think you almost get in this sort of race, and I think it happens in like death metal, especially like within like from old school, like your 80s and very early 90s, and like as it was progressing into like the mid 90s, there's just like this explosion of just like how far can you push the human voice, or how fast can these blast beats get, and how fucking destructive can I get lyrically? So then like you have this explosion of brutality with, say, something like Devourment, where his lyric or his vocal approach is like indecipherable. Like, absolutely. And it's got these great, like, suffocation-esque riffs that just tie everything together. And it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, and I always think back to, like, John Gallagher, too, whenever I think of something like this, where he said in an interview one time, somebody was like, how do you look at like being in a band called Dying Fetus, as a middle-aged man now? And he was like, honestly, he was like, it doesn't, he's like, I know that name seems to bother lots of various groups of people. He was like, but I was like 17 years old and just wanted to be, he was like, I was sitting there, listening to like, say, like, for example, like Cannibal Corpse. And it's like, now how the fuck am I going to be, how can I pick something that is just as heavy and menacing, or as heavier, or whatever? And it's like, just like think about that for a second. It's like, it's a zombie is what that means, but it's like a cannibal corpse. So like, that puts an image in your head like right away. So He was like, I was like 17 years old, trying to outdo my influences is all I was trying to do. He was like, so the name Dying Fetus was just basically an attempt to say, like, you guys aren't shit because our name's Dying Fetus.
And I feel like that is one purpose that people can accomplish with that genre of music. But at the same time, like I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and part of his field of study, he basically analyzes like human behavior and what it's attributed to, and he has this philosophy where basically, you know, in order to live a good life, you need to realize what the worst things that you're capable of doing, and you need to find an outlet, or you need to find fulfillment or a purpose or something, so that you don't ever want to do those things. And that's the thing that trips me out about, like, censorship has always been something that I've always been a very I've never been a fan of, and that's always been something I've been trying to bring awareness to people. Was me, my opinion, it's always been everyone is capable of doing very terrible things. And that's a scary thing. The most scary thing about World War II is all the guards in these Nazi concentration camps, they all had families. They were all regular people. They were
Right.
normal people. That's the scary thing. And a whole country was capable of committing genocide, systematic genocide over years. This doesn't happen overnight,
Right.
And
Yeah.
they do these clinical studies with these people. Like, you can take a normal person, a very agreeable person, and you can make them do things. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of they'll take a test subject, they'll put them behind a blinders or curtain, and you can still hear them, right? And a test administrator will come around and make it sound like he's hooking up testing probes to this person, like to monitor their vitals. He goes around the corner with this person who's gonna be administering the test for this clinical study, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna read a series of questions to this person. Basically, if they respond in this way, you need to administer this shock to them. And they're like, wait, what? I'm administering shocks to people? Like, what the fuck? And like, yeah, it's not a problem. It's not gonna hurt them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. And they do it because they're told to do it. And they know it's wrong. And they're not actually getting shocked, but like, and then they can adjust the amount of voltage, and they're listening to commands from the test director, like this doctor or whatever. He's like, no, I'm a doctor, trust me. Hey, turn the voltage up. And it's like, they do this, and then at the very end, they ask the person, why'd you do that? And like, well, it was a controlled study. They're like, yeah, but that person was obviously in pain. Like, why'd you do that? And they're like, well, I was doing what I was told. They're like, but were you?
Yeah.
And it gets,
Yeah.
and then it makes you start talking about these things like, these aren't things that, people that are really bothered by these things, like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is on an album cover, or oh my God, I can't believe they're talking about this. Like the whole thing with Bob Dole when he was rallying against Cannibal Corpse back in the 90s.
Yeah.
These guys are corrupting
on,
the youth
national
of
news.
America. No, we're talking about things that are very real. And if anything, they're very tame, because the things they're talking about, I mean, in a real world, aren't very capable of of happening for the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's crazy where like things are deemed to be acceptable where things are not, and it's like, it makes you think that with these styles of music and the themes that are found and are apparent in these styles of music, it's people say that, oh man, I can't believe that you're listening to that. This is going to affect very highly impressionable people. It's like, no, people are using this as an outlet, and people are going to identify with this because they have similar thoughts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
it's not that they're being influenced.
That's exactly where it comes to as well, is because it's like, I know in various times in my life where it's like, maybe you're very upset, maybe you've had a bad day, maybe you've had a bad week, whatever the case may be, but like, you can put on a record, like any of them really, and hearing the intensity of the music and the and the singing, or the vocals and everything, and it like matches your feelings So then it literally there is a stress relief found within all of that just literally uh, balances me, kind of puts me on an even line where I was like way up here ready to destroy something, and then like, oh hey, this guy obviously uh understands. Like, check this out, like, cause he feels just as intense as I do, and then through all of that process, there's very much a pain relief, a stress relief, you know, or what have you. But yeah, there I've never experienced anything other than positivity from even the darkest reaches of metal music.
And there's another train of thought too, where like you take a band with a name. I know you talk about Dying Fetus, but the one that always stood out to me, and it's been years since I've heard this band name, Circle of Dead Children.
Yeah, Circle
Or
of Dead
that is
Children.
the most stark, just jarring name. And then you got
Yeah.
bands that are like where they dabble and they talk about misogyny or porno grind bands.
Yeah, like I often think back to Torso Fuck.
Yeah. And they're
And they
meant to
had that.
be unsettling.
They,
There's a line that I would never, cross.
right. Yeah,
Like
like they had a song called like "Raped by Elephants."
yeah. And it's
And
like
their album was like fecal. Fuck, what was that called? I don't know. It was like fecal existentialism or something like that. And it shows like two girls, like on a very white background, like paste white background, like covered in piss and shit.
oh wait, I see it. Erotic diarrhea fantasy.
Yeah, erotic diarrhea
What
fantasies. And I
the
like sit there and I
hell?
look at that and I'm like instantly if you when you look at something like that, especially like while the music is playing, like it definitely has like that sort of shock, like, what am I about to get myself into?
And there's
You know what I
nine
mean?
9 songs on this album, and the most tame one that I see is titled Cannibal. All the other
Yeah,
ones, mutilated for sexual purposes, erotic diarrhea fantasy, worm infested anal, four-legged whore. And then it makes me
yeah,
okay, and this is the thing. This other train of thought is like when people bring that up, the only thing I think of it's like it's meant to be provocative. It's like watching a
yeah,
horror movie,
yeah. And it's like,
you
and I
know.
listen to that and I'm like, and people are like, like, you're okay with listening to like talking about like beating women and being raped by, like bestiality and piss and shit. Like, you're okay with that? And I'm like, well, there's no way they're serious about this. This has to be there's like, anytime I listen to it, I'm like, there's like, this is so far out there. It's like tongue in cheek to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just being so brutal for the sake of brutality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's like, I
it's
don't think these guys go home and they're like, get that bitch out of the fruit cellar for another round. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's, or like, it's like, I don't think that, I don't know. It's like, because everybody, I mean, not everybody, but just about everybody that I've ever met in metal community, whether that be bands or just fans or whatever, they are literally the most well-adjusted, down-to-earth human beings I've ever met.
yeah. And it goes back to a band like Carcass, people were really outraged when they came out with I can't remember the name of their debut album. It had all the meat on the album cover, right?
Yeah, their first couple records.
Yeah. And I remember
Yeah, like Symphonies of Sickness and yeah, like Genital Grinder and stuff like that.
yeah, people would say these guys are the most perverse, sick motherfuckers. Oh my god, they're ridiculous. And they're like sitting like, we're actually vegetarian.
Yeah, we're actually
What the
vegetarian.
fuck? Like, you eat burgers, pal. Like, you're the fucked up one. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's like I love listening to Barney Greenway talk from like Napalm Death,
Oh,
because like he's like,
the dude with the afro, right? No, wait, Barney's the vocalist, right?
yeah, the
Okay.
vocalist, and he's like very like well mannered, very highly intelligent, and just like his offstage persona and his onstage persona are like very polar opposites. Because like I could just like sit there and listen to that guy talk all day about just whatever he wanted to talk about. And then like he gets like up on stage and he's like this very commanding, just you know, force, and it's just a stark realization between both personas.
And that is, I think, because we mentioned them earlier and they keep coming up as Napalm Death. And I feel like you take a band like them and what they're talking about, that's probably the most like fear instilling content is that. It's like,
Yeah, all of that with like a very political edge
yeah. Because it's like they're
or
talking about political
social edge
systems
to it.
that are using agendas as a means to an end for the purpose of manipulation. You know, those are real.
Yeah.
Those are the scariest things. Those are capable of destroying millions of lives, and they have destroyed millions of lives. We're talking about political systems that are, oiled and fueled by the pain and suffering of other people, or that run at the cost of the quality of lives of people.
Mm-hmm.
Companies that are outsourcing labor overseas, for companies to manufacture tennis shoes for 40 cents a pair to be sold over here for $50 a piece. It's like that's real.
Yeah, that shit's real.
And I'm glad
And
for people that their biggest problem is I'm actually thankful when I hear that people's biggest problem in the world is literally the fact that someone put a fucking album out, or that they wrote a song, or cattle decapitation. They weren't allowed to put their video on YouTube, so it had to be on Pornhub. By
yeah,
people that are bothered by that,
like their forced gender
yeah,
reassignment.
which was fucking ridiculous, you
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, it's like ridiculously creative. That's just as creative as fucking what was that? Human Centipede. Something is
Yeah.
off the wall because it has a very because like what was the premise of that video? It was someone was protesting outside of an abortion clinic or something like that, and they're kidnapped and they're tortured or something like that, and then they as a boy and a girl or something, and
Yeah.
yeah
And then
their genitals
madness
are
ensues.
mutilated, and it's meant to instill fear. It's a horror movie and a song.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and
But
that was something very similar, like around that time for me, anyways. Like hearing that song, like Oorworm, something like that by Cephalic Carnage, and their video for that was like really disturbing to me because like it starts off and like the song's like really jazzy.
they're a really eclectic band too. That was the only thing that they were kind of hard to get into because I feel like they were a little all over the place.
Yeah, like I'm only lacking like 2 albums from those guys.
Really?
And I've been looking for them forever because like I love these guys, and their last album came out in 2010, where everybody's like, I see these memes sometimes where people are like, poking System of a Down with a stick, and it just says like, "Come on," like they're waiting for a new album, and they did the same thing with like Tool, stuff like that. I'm just like, I want another Cephalic Carnage album. Like it's been almost 10 years. Come on. Like I love those guys so much.
Shit. I'm trying to think for Cephalic Carnage. I gotta look them up again. I remember. I think. Let me see.
Like I have like exploiting dysfunction, anomalies, xenosapien, and misled by certainty. So I'm like missing like lucid dream intervals and like their first album, I think.
Okay, looking at conforming to abnormality, that looks familiar, but the one I'm thinking of is Xenosapian.
Yeah, that has
And
like what is that? Angel
Touched by an Angel.
touched by an angel. Yeah, that's all about like priests and children.
Ooh man, speaking of that, Immolation.
Yeah, I got here. I was just today. I was listening to what is that album? Here and After,
The one I was
their
thinking
second
of
album.
was I'm all over the place. But Bob Vigna, that probably one of my favorite fucking guitarists, man.
Yeah,
Close to a World Below. Unpardonable Sin, Father, You're Not a
yeah.
Father.
Isn't that like a red album
Yeah, with the
cover, or
burning
like full of
cross.
flames?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
fucking that's such a sick album.
yeah. That is a Ross Dolan. I think that's what the lead singer's name is in Immolation. Ross Dolan is awesome, and he's actually he guest on Soulfly's newest album.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of kills me about Immolation is the vocal approach.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing too, um, not that it bothers me, but just sometimes it gets stale. Is like when your entire lyrical approach is just like anti like Christianity or
Oh
anti
no, no,
religion.
I actually meant the sound of the vocals. I think I don't have a problem with their themes. I just meant like um I guess I'm not really a fan of guttural vocals. Maybe that's just my
Yeah.
thing. I've always liked harsh shit. Like I've always liked is it Don? Is it Donnie Tardy? Or is it Ron? I can't
Oh,
remember.
Donald Tardy.
Is it Donald Tardy?
Yeah,
From
Donald Tardy
Obituary or
from
Max from
Obituary.
Sepultura. I've always liked really
Yeah,
harsh
he's got a
style
rasp.
vocals, yeah.
He's got like a rasp to him.
Or
Yeah,
Chris.
yeah. But no, I just like I don't mind like the anti-Christian theme, but it's like album after album after album, kind of like say like with Deicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at just like at some point you're like kind of know where to go because this is the 85th song I've listened to from you guys that you're like, fuck God, you know what I mean? And it's like I can only it's like cool. Like this one was really awesome, just like the other 84 fuck God songs you had. You know what I mean?
But you want to sit
So
down
it's
with
like,
Glenn. You want to sit down with Glenn Benton. You want to be like, dude, what the fuck happened in Sunday school when you were 8?
yeah, no, and I'm just like, yeah, cool. You know, like Deicide has like 110 songs of anti-Jesus and one song about his ex-wife.
Dude, he gets up to the gates of heaven. He's like, yeah, fuck you. And Jesus like, I'm actually a fan. Like,
I mean, yeah, dude, like Deicide's the shit.
he's like, wait, what?
Huh?
Yeah, bro, we're like huge fucking
Yeah.
fans. Can you sign
So
my
it's like,
shit?
yeah, like don't get me wrong, I love Deicide, but yeah, it's kind of like I kind of feel like you pigeonholed yourself here because either nobody wants to hear anything else other than you know, raping Jesus, or everybody wants to hear something else, but you've built your entire career on raping Jesus, so you're just going to continue to rape Jesus.
Was that Cradle of Filth that did Jesus as a cunt, or was that Deicide that did that Jesus as a cunt? I think it might have been Cradle.
Yeah, that might
They
have
did
been
some
Cradle
T-shirt or
Filth.
some album art design. I can't remember.
And like I said, I mean that's completely fine if somebody wants to, if that's what they want to do. It's just at some point, like it just kind of like gets stale to me
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I've just heard this.
Well,
But oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what the hell was I gonna fucking say? I was putting this cheat sheet together for all this stuff because I'm like copy and pasting links to throw in the like description wherever it's gonna go on YouTube or whatever. But because I'm like for the things that we've been talking about, I'm trying to throw like
Tags.
hyperlinks or tags, like trying to split things up, and I'm trying to take like the meat of things that we've been talking about for people like who are interested in them. Like I attached a link for what was that band that you were talking about a second ago? The Diarrhea Fantasy band.
Oh, Torso Fuck.
Yeah, so attached a link for people that might be interested in more extreme styles of music. I think that was really the most extreme one that we talked about.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty extreme.
And what the hell? Pungent Stench. I gotta grab that link really quick.
Yeah, Pungent Stench is an awesome band.
All right. Okay. We are at 3 hours.
Really?
We're at the 3 hour mark.
Sweet.
So I got 2,200 measures of us talking. Now I gotta mix this down. I feel like we got a pretty good cross section of extreme music. I feel like we touched everything on extreme music. I feel like we talked about everything from thrash metal, black metal, death metal, hybrids of all those genres together. And then we dabbled into hardcore. Then we dabbled into sludge, and then after sludge, we talked about what the hell did we talk about? We were talking about newer bands like Vitriol, and we started talking about Blood Incantation, the tour that they're doing with Cattle Decapitation.
Tomb Mold.
That was the thing I was going to ask you about. Because the closest show I saw for Cattle was going to be in Kansas. You're driving to Kansas?
Yeah, I'm driving to Lawrence, Kansas.
Holy shit.
Which is only about 40 minutes away from Jacob Eckhart's place.
All right, let me pull this.
So, like, I'm just going to, crash at his house.
He's going to go with you?
I haven't asked him yet. But he might.
Jacob, if you're listening to this, you need to go check out fucking Author and Punisher. For anyone that's listening to this, if you're not a fan of metal, if you may be a fan of electronic music and you want to check out things that might be a little heavier, check out Author and Punisher. I feel like they might actually, I don't know if they'll open though.
Yeah, see, and I don't know, because, I'm catching the same leg of the tour,
you're in
7 or 8
December
days
6th.
later. And I don't know who all's going to be there that's at, I think some of the bands drop off from when you see them to whenever I'm going to see them.
All right, wait. So there's actually...
I don't even think, maybe Full of Hell's not even going to be where I'm at.
All right, Cattle Decapitation, the Genocidal Tendencies Tour dates with Atheist, Full of Hell, Primitive Man, Author and Punisher, and Vitriol. On December 6th in Lawrence, Kansas at Granada Theater. And there's a legend here. It says... That's kind of confusing. Primitive Man. I don't think Primitive Man will be on that tour, on that date.
Yeah.
But Author and Punisher and Full of Hell will be. So for anyone that's interested in catching that tour, it's the November 22nd, starting Austin, Texas, ends on December 22nd, San Diego, California, the Brick by Brick. I think Ed's going to end up doing that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he still does sound down there, which would be fucking awesome to see that show. Yeah. So for anyone that's interested, Atheist, Cattle Decapitation is headlining Primitive Man, Author and Punisher, and Vitriol. Vitriol, let me give them another shout out. Everyone go check out Vitriol. I'm going to throw their link inside of the description.
If you haven't listened to that band, you're doing yourself a disservice, because they're just great. They harken back on a somewhat familiar sound while still keeping it their own. There's a lot of passion played with their music. It's very visceral, very just, I don't know, it just has all the makings for what I believe to be a new age classic band.
Yeah, and they are ridiculous live.
Yeah.
They have a really good presence. And Blood Incantation. I also threw their link in there too. You can speak more to them than I can. I've just Jacob told me about him, and you told me about him because I think you guys were at the show together, right?
Yeah. We ended up going to that show together.
And I don't think he's really a fan of extreme music, but I feel like
no,
he
he walked
was
away
into him.
with he walked away. He bought some vinyl from him.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah,
Shit.
and that's coming from somebody that's not doesn't how do I put that with like say Jacob is loves music. His forte isn't necessarily heavy music
yeah.
though. So for like somebody that just enjoys music, for like a band like Blood Incantation to pique their interest, I think it just says a lot about the type of band that is. So yeah, Blood Incantation definitely some good like outer reaches of space kind of atmosphere of death metal. It's pretty good stuff.
Hell fucking yeah, and I'm gonna go check him out because I haven't really checked him out. All right. I feel like we're at a good stopping point. I can't fucking thank you enough for coming on here and doing this fucking first episode. I feel like this flowed really well too. I feel like I went through every bullet point. I can't thank you enough for helping me out with that.
Yeah, well, I was absolutely more than glad to be here because I could go all day.
Fuck yeah, man. We're gonna be doing this again. I feel like there's gonna be more specific things I want to talk about, and we'll hash out like the details on things, exactly like specifics we want to talk about because like we touched over everything. So this is like a good introduction to people who don't really know that much about all the genres that are encompassed under, you know, the hard rock, heavy metal,
lays
umbrella.
A pretty decent a decent kind of baseline of just like here and after, like what you could kind of expect, and we can definitely elaborate on various areas because this is America.
Hell fucking yeah. And for anyone that's interested in all the stuff that we talked about, it's going to be provided in any of the descriptions or links that are associated with this podcast. But you know what? That's the one thing I want to talk about next time. I know we've been talking about you. You were starting a project of your own.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah,
I definitely want to I want to rack your brain on that. I want to figure out what's going on. So I want to know the details.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a perfect idea.
All right, man. Well, I fucking appreciate you coming on here. I can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, man. All right, thanks guys for listening. Appreciate it. All right, I gotta stop this podcast now.
Yeah.